Steven, what was your average draft selection when you were selected for dodgeball?
Oh, for dodgeball.
For dodgeball,
Mm.
when all the kids were playing PE, where were you in the draft order? You a high
Uh,
draft pick, a low draft pick?
I'd like to think I was in like Daniel Jones territory,
Okay.
like sixth overall, but not really expected to be drafted that high. You
Yeah.
know, like I
And
think I
and
think I'd be
probably
there.
drafted way too high and exceeded it, didn't live up to expectations.
Well, didn't have good coaching, didn't have the right front office, didn't have the franchise just was in disarray when they drafted me. So,
I see.
it's really the franchise's fault. It's not mine. But I'd say that's where I was. What about you?
Well, I wish I could say that. I was more Mr. Irrelevant when it came to being selected for dodgeball. So
Oof.
like last.
Why?
Because I'm short.
Short's good though.
For dodgeball?
It's great for dodgeball.
I guess.
I mean,
I tried my best.
if you have short legs, I mean, come on, man. You don't have much, the low center of gravity. You don't have a ton of
Yeah.
place to you don't have a big body to hit. I mean, you get these tall guys. I know it's like everyone's scared. The tall guys throw hard, but in reality, you throw to their ankles, they're not going to be able to do anything.
And I practiced hard. I watched tons of film from the American Dodgeball Association of America.
Oh, did you?
I did. No, I mean, no. In all reality, when we played dodgeball, it was just like picking like who's your friends. Like you just want to be in the same team as your friends.
We had a dodgeball tournament at in high school, and
Tournament. Oh yeah, so
yeah.
did we actually. It was fun.
What were we the first year? Because I only did it my junior and my senior year. First year we were called the Squad, which was just awful. But I didn't have a team. Someone asked me to join it, and I did it, and it was pretty sick. Our shirts were sick. It was very well done. It's just the Squad, not a very original name.
The Squad.
And then you can imagine senior year took matters into my own hands, created our own team, and called it Snug Life, where we all in the introductions came out in Snuggies.
Okay.
We made these sick ass shirts with the teddy bear on it. It was dope.
Sounds dope.
Yeah, but we God, I remember getting so pissed because I went out early in the game because someone caught one of the balls that I threw, and I think I threw a chair or something. I don't know. It was not good.
Oh, you pulled a Bobby Knight?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In a dodgeball tournament. So I was really frustrated then, but it felt good, man. Those were the good times in high school, the dodgeball tournament.
It was the height of your life, and it's all been downhill since.
Yeah, it was a total peak. Total peak. But it is what it is.
Welcome everybody to Just Your Opinion, man. Derek Papa, Stephen Langford. Yes, we will have an interview with Greg Papa today, my pops, but that'll be later in the show. Stay tuned for that. But in the meantime and in between time, we're going to talk about some stuff that's going on in sports. And, there's not a football game this weekend. There is. There's the Pro Bowl. There's a Senior Bowl tomorrow. But
so not really a football game.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a whole lot going on. But there was the Pro Bowl Skills Challenge last night. They played dodgeball. It's fun. I saw Trayvon Diggs, I believe, made the catch to win the win for whatever team he was on. Russell Wilson was throwing around, looking good, trying to get his draft stock up. They did like a weird thing with instead of the slam dunk contest, they did like the catch contest, and Stephon Diggs caught a ball like going up into the air and landing on like a soft cushion on top of a table like the Bills Mafia. And then I saw that they were doing the fastest man challenge, and Tyreek Hill couldn't give two shits about it. Just ran with jeans on. Yeah. And Micah Parsons gave a shit, took his shirt off, and owned that thing. So Micah Parsons is the fastest man in the NFL now.
There we go. It's settled. Am I wrong in saying that the NFL did not do nearly a good enough job in promoting that?
Probably because, like you, I did not know that was on last night. I was at work.
You didn't even know.
I didn't even know. I caught it while I was at work, and I was like, "Oh, they're doing this tonight."
There we go. See, there we go. That's the answer right there.
And Friday, they're also, I guess, they're doing more skills challenge, or it's a repeat of last night. I'm not really sure because I thought we saw it last night with Russell Wilson doing his thing, and people that hate Mac Jones. He did not look good in his thing. I guess he underperformed.
Well, but, he did that in his pro day too. It's pretty common of Mac Jones just to crack under pressure when all eyes really are on him and not just the entire team.
The guy that won the national championship?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Whatever. He had Nick Saban there.
You and the rest of the Niner fan base can crap all over Mac Jones.
I'm not the Niner fan base. What are you talking about?
I
haven't crapped all over.
I'm joking.
Good Lord. I get really mad when that happens. But yeah, that skills challenge, like that's the only thing that anyone cares about at all, if anything, with the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like the NFL is in a terrible spot with the Pro Bowl game because your sport's about violence. Your sport's about being physical. Nobody wants to be physical in an all-star game. Like,
yeah,
in baseball, you can have a pitcher. Sure, you could float one to Derek Jeter and he can get a hit in his last ever all-star game, which actually helped the Giants a little bit because that meant the there's a whole trickle down. I could go on and on about how that had an impact on the Giants in the 2014 World Series, but never mind. Those guys are still up there throwing 90 miles an hour. Now, they're not maybe giving their best stuff just so they don't get Tommy John after it, but they're still putting in an effort. It's kind of fun to watch the All-Star game every now and then they try to do fun things around it. But the NFL, it really is a waste of a game.
Yeah. No, I agree. When I was younger, and the Pro Bowl was in Honolulu, and they had the fun blue and white jerseys, and it was after the Super Bowl, so you can just hold on for one more week of pro football. That's when I enjoyed it. Now I don't watch, honestly.
Who does? Really?
My dad. You'll hear it in the interview. My dad is going to Vegas this weekend to go to the NHL All-Star game tomorrow and to catch the Pro Bowl on Sunday. My dad is going through withdrawals so bad that he cannot do play-by-play for a game. He is going to the goddamn Pro Bowl.
Well, the NHL All-Star game he's going to, though.
Yes, he's going to that as well.
Is he going to the skills challenge? I think so. I think the skills challenge is tonight.
Well, I'm pretty sure the skills challenge was last night. I'm confused on that because we saw Russell Wilson do the throwing and everything.
No, I'm talking about hockey.
Oh, hockey. My bad. No, my pops. He's in the car right now. Tessie's driving him down to Vegas.
Okay, gotcha. Because the skills challenge for hockey is fun to watch. Like,
isn't it 3-on-3 for the actual? No, we knew it was going to happen eventually. But yeah, the Pro Bowl. I don't know. I don't enjoy watching the game. Steven's back.
Go cash one. Go cash your bet slip now if you had the over under at 5 minutes.
What? Yeah. Hey, you know what? At least we got it out of the way. And I'll prepare everybody. I know I make fun of you for your technical difficulties. When we play the interview with my pops, my Wi-Fi is terrible in it, but that doesn't matter. As long as you hear him, that's all that matters.
Yes.
And also my dad's iPad dies in the middle of the interview, so that'll be fun to.
Damn.
Yeah. I'll set it up and everything. It'll be a nice, clean, smooth process of playing it. But
kind of like it was with Saintly, huh?
Well, what happened with Saintly?
Don't you remember his iPad died? Then he went on his phone, and it was one of the greatest moments in podcast history when he said, "Look at this, guys, I'm back."
That is true. At least Saintly got on. There was that one time we were waiting for Michael Urban to hop on and do the interview with us.
Oh boy!
And eventually he did. Yeah.
Wish I would have been there for the interview though. Chose a bad day to get the haircut.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Steven. Steven missed the interview because he had to get a haircut. Hey, it looks good.
Thanks, man. I was very excited to, again, ask him in the elevator that one time at 95.7. Yeah, I'm that guy who suggested that the Raiders move Ben Heaney to safety in a weird, hey, this fifth rounder out of Kansas, this dude, he needs to go to safety. Come on, put him there.
And did my dad agree with you?
He brushed it off, then just asked me about who I am and what I'm doing and all this stuff. And he just said, keep going. If you need any help, just ask and all that stuff. And that was really the only time I ever saw him in studio.
Well, I mean, he knew you as the guy that does the voice of Gruden.
And then John Gruden came along. So there you go. TJ Hawkinson. And that was that draft.
No, we were actually doing the interview. The first thing he says is, "No, Steven?" And I'm like, yeah, he had to go take a haircut. And he goes, well, that's probably good because I run along anyway with just one person asking me questions. So
I feel bad. I hope he doesn't take that as like an
No,
insult.
no. Listen, we didn't even scratch the surface. Uh, the interview is great. We'll play it later. It's an hour long. We get into a lot of stuff. I ask him about John Gruden. I ask him about this season with the 49ers. I ask him about the job that was offered to him by Al Davis about a front office position with the Raiders. Not many people know about that, but we will discuss that.
Ooh.
But there are a lot of things that we didn't talk about. I've always wanted to talk to him about. He went down to Miami to talk to Barrett Robbins about 10 years ago. And he says it's one of the best interviews he's ever done in his life. And something happened with Comcast and NBC Sports where they didn't want to air it because it was too dark.
At the
So
time, you're saying
at-
10 years ago.
yes, at the time. And they released it in a podcast form a couple years ago, I think during the pandemic,
Right.
and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
So next time we get my pops on, we'll ask him about that. He's obsessed with the new Lakers show coming out, so we can talk to him about that too. He's always like wanted to make a show about that, so he's kind of angry that someone beat him to the punch on that. But
I'm
there's
gonna
lots of
try and
things to
watch
talk about.
I'm gonna watch the Stanley Tucci show, the Italy
Oh yeah,
one,
he loves that too.
and go through it because anytime I've heard your dad in the past, before football season at least,
He's all
anytime I've
about
heard
that
him on
Tucci.
the air, he's always like, "Have you seen that Stanley Tucci show?" And it's just
He loves it.
yeah. So
We
I'm
can
gonna have
we
to
we,
brush
we
up on my Italy.
Yeah, no, we could be in the middle of a football game. I'm pretty sure that show is in the off season,
Yeah.
but he loves watching. I don't even know the name of it, but it's Tucci in Italy or some shit. But
Yeah, it's Stanley Tucci's Taste of Italy. I
Okay.
don't remember what it's called, but the dude, I've seen an episode and it's really, really good. So I think me
Yeah.
and Greg I'm just going to take over and me and Greg are going to talk
Hey.
Italy.
that's only fair. Next interview we do with him, you take over and I'll just listen.
Excellent. Great.
But yeah, my pops is all excited about the Pro Bowl, and he may be the only one. So would you say it's the worst one out of all the All-Star games? When you think about MLB All-Star game, and it used to be where the AL and NL were battling it out for home field advantage in the World Series, and thank God they took that away. But it did add a fun dimension to it when I was younger. Then you got the NBA All-Star game that's coming in a couple of weeks. Shout out to Draymond Green. He was announced as an alternate last night, or not an alternate, but a reserve player. And you got the NHL All-Star game. So between the four
Yes.
of those, would you say the NFL Pro Bowl is the worst?
By far.
Yeah.
By far. Because it's football. You can't have an all-star game with football. It's very hard to
Yeah.
I mean, the thing we like about it is the physicality of the game, and these guys don't want to, get themselves hurt. It's very easy to get hurt in a football game, especially if you go at 100%. So I haven't watched a Pro Bowl in years just because
me
I know
neither.
there's no point. Nobody
Yeah.
watches it. Like I already mentioned the baseball's all-star game, the NBA's all-star game. Of course, they don't play any defense until
The fourth quarter.
That fourth quarter. Then things start to get interesting. It actually keeps you hooked. It keeps you engaged. The NHL All-Star game is fun to watch just because, hockey's best stars going out there and doing things that they do. It's pretty remarkable, those types of skills that they have. So I really would say the Pro Bowl is the absolute worst. And players don't even want to play in it. Like, what's worse than that? Like, they don't even have their stars, especially with two teams that are already going to the Super Bowl. It's like, imagine, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Those guys should be headlining it there. Maybe even Joe Mixon. Maybe not Joe Mixon just because Jonathan Taylor's the leading back in the AFC. Maybe Joe Mixon. But on the other side, Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, like Aaron Donald. It's just you're not even getting all your best players there. So there's so much that's flawed about the Pro Bowl. And quite frankly, I don't know what they could do to fix it. What do you think, Derek?
I don't think there is a way to fix it. I don't think there's a good way to do a NFL All-Star game.
No, there's not.
I think, and honestly, I think a Pro Bowl selection doesn't mean a whole lot these days. Considering like Matthew Stafford didn't even get selected to the Pro Bowl. It's the All-Pro team that I take a lot more stock into these days. But when I was a kid, I loved watching the skills competition with the quarterbacks. I loved that when they were. I think it took place. It may not have always been during the Pro Bowl, but I always remember watching Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Trent Green, all these guys in Honolulu thrown around, getting, there was like that paint on the tip of the football that they had to, throw the bullseye at. And that was fun. I love watching that stuff. So if they made a bigger spectacle out of that, like I didn't even know this was happening last night. And, to your point, Steve, like this wasn't, advertised very well. So
they did a terrible job at promoting
yeah.
that. Like a terrible job. I had no clue.
Yeah, so I would have enjoyed. I enjoy the skills competition with the quarterbacks, but that's about it. I mean, honestly, I only watched the Pro Bowl in years past when it was after the Super Bowl, and I was clinging to life for more football.
I don't know what year it was. And I think Jim Harbaugh, who I'm sure we're going to talk about today, was playing for
the Colts?
I think he was playing for the Colts, or was he playing for the Bears at the time? Did he ever play for the Bears?
when NFL Network replays the old like 90s, classic skills competition with the QBs. I love watching that.
Yeah, they had a just a straight deep ball competition. Just see who throws it farthest. And of course, Jim Harbaugh threw it like, I don't know, 60 yards, which wasn't anywhere near where Drew Bledsoe or Brett Favre were putting it, but he was still really proud of it. I don't know. It's just little things like that. I'd like to see that now. I think the one that I want to see, and I don't know, maybe they even had it last night. That's the sad part. If they had it last night, I didn't know about it. But I just want to see a radar gun and these guys throwing a football. I want to see who throws the hardest one, especially in this era where you got guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And Josh Allen's actually at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the AT&T Pro-Am this weekend, which I'll be at tomorrow. I'm going.
You're going to that?
I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, for a day of fun. Very stoked.
Sweet. You taking the girlfriend, or are you just going by yourself?
Yeah, I'm just going by myself. No, I'm Jesse's going along. Our friends, shout out to Nick and Kelly. Kelly works for I believe she works for I actually don't know which part it is. It's like it is the PGA Tour, and she works for the Pebble Beach part of it. So she's running like social media there, and there was a time a few months ago when you can get a discount on tickets. So I think we're going for like $25 or $30, and just gonna spend the day out there, man. Very stoked about it. I think Josh Allen's there.
Sweet.
Yeah, Macklemore's there. Schoolboy Q is teeing off at like 9:45. I'm really excited to see that. I know he's gotten into golf lately.
Damn.
Yeah.
All the great rappers.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
It's like when he drives the ball, I'm going to be like, it's like the ceiling can't hold that ball, huh, Mac?
God.
So bad. Where's Ryan at? I don't know. I'm just making terrible jokes at this point.
So you'll be doing that. And there isn't a real football game going on between the Pro Bowl, Senior Bowl, guys trying to, elevate their draft stock. So I'll be watching that tomorrow because I have to go to work tomorrow. But besides that, we got the NHL All-Star Game. Not a whole lot sports-wise, and the Warriors are off for 3 days straight, which is weird. I thought we have a game this weekend.
Nah.
But they're off for 3 days. So you might as well just keep watching the Winter Olympics. And Steven, you've been all over that, right?
Been all over it.
Oh, yeah. Tell me all about the Winter Olympics.
All over the Winter Olympics. There's figure skating. There's skiing. Cole McDonald out of the USA on the Alpine. Unbelievable. Unreal. I'm just kidding. I only watched like 5 minutes of it at prime time last night, and Cole McDonald's the only name that I remember. Kind of cool.
Steven, you made a big deal about this last week, and now you don't know shit about this.
The opening ceremonies are tonight. By the way,
so I'm confused. So the opening ceremonies are tonight?
Yes.
Have events happened already?
They air tonight. They air here.
See, this is why okay, I like the Olympics, but show it live. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Have it play on NBC Sports. People will watch this shit at 4:00 in the morning. Just have it keep going.
Not a lot of people though.
I know, but people will.
The audience at
I just don't like it. I don't like it on tape delay. Come on, show it live.
It's just an opening ceremony. It's no big deal. And the events that they hold.
When was the opening ceremony in actuality? Last night?
I don't know. It was in China when it was nighttime in China when people are awake. In Beijing.
Time differences. This all throw me off.
But do you think South Park's going to create a second episode based off of the Olympics, the opening ceremonies at the Olympics?
I mean, they already did that, but sure, yeah, why not?
They cannot recreate that type of an episode in today's climate.
I mean, but they don't really give a shit.
It's
If you
true.
watch, if you watch the new episode of South Park with the pajamas, that it was not their best stuff, but it was pretty funny. Have you ever seen the new episode of South Park this week?
I haven't seen
Okay,
anything new with South Park, which is very sad. I want
yeah,
to, but no, the Olympics though, man. I
the
think
Winter Olympics.
I was talking well to Jesse about it because that's the only person I really ever talked to, besides
sorry.
coworkers. But I was thinking like Winter Olympics. I feel like the sports or the events are much more. I was trying to think of the right way to word it. They're much more impressive, I think, than the Summer Olympics.
How so?
Because Summer Olympics, these people are just unreal athletes, like the greatest athletes you'll ever see. But
Mhm.
they're really good at running, jumping. What's another one? Running again, speed walking, even. You there? Oh god, computer froze. Did my computer freeze? Oh boy. I hope that's not me. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. But the Winter Olympics, yeah, this is what I do. Solo show, 5 to 6, Monday through Friday. Check it out. Pregame show, 95.7 The Game. The Winter Olympics to me, when you got snowboarding and skiing, those are skills within itself. Like, that's
Oh,
hard to do regularly. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was wondering if my internet was out or your internet was out, so I was just
Now,
talking.
see, this is what's been happening lately. You'll see in my dad's interview. Am I coming through good or am I coming in shitty?
You're coming through perfect, man.
All right.
So where was I? Summer
I don't
Olympics.
remember.
Summer
Yes.
Olympics.
Yeah.
You got relatively normal events. You know, you got sprinters, you got runners, you got the pole vault, you got all the track and field stuff, which as far as like a skill set, it's not hard to do. But if you're incredibly athletic and you can work at it, then you're going to be really good. I mean, that's not to say like, it doesn't require any skill to do what they do. But in the Winter Olympics, I mean, you got figure skating. Some people don't know how to ice skate. You got skiing. A lot of people don't know how to ski. Me personally, tried skiing for the first time when I was 4 years old. And when the instructor kept yelling, pizza, pizza, pizza in my face, because that's the the thing to stop. They say pizza, because I guess the only triangle shaped thing that you could think of is pizza.
Pizza or French fries. I get
I
it.
started crying. And then what did
He's just trying to
snowboard?
save your life, Steven. Jesus.
I know, but he was yelling at me in the process, and I was young. And then went to snowboarding. I was much better at that, so I'm more of a snowboarder than a skier. But still, a lot of people don't know how to snowboard either.
Yeah.
So these people in the Winter Olympics are taking events from things that we try and do as normal folk, and we're not very good at it. So it's just the talent level of these guys. I don't know. It's much more impressive. Whereas the athleticism in the Summer Olympics is much more impressive. Do you know where I'm getting at? Do you understand?
Not really.
Because Jesse was having a very tough time understanding it either.
So
Yeah,
you're saying
understanding
that
it too, yeah.
there's actual skill involved with the Winter Olympics athletes as opposed to the Summer Olympics athletes,
Well,
where
these
they
people
are
are
just running like things that people normally can do.
Yes, these people are just like the people in the Summer Olympics are athletic marvels. Now, again, that's not to say there's no skills involved in the events. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to put down what they're doing or dilute what they're doing. But at least when I'm watching the Winter Olympics, I'm watching these dudes go down the slopes, the alpine skiing. I watched 5 minutes of it, and like their knees are buckled and they're going boom, 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 boom. Then they go and do a backflip. Bobsledding. I don't know, dude. Like it was hard to explain. But
Yeah.
when I'm always asked about like what do you like more, the Summer or Winter Olympics, I always say like I'm much more impressed by the events in the Winter Olympics than I am in the summer ones.
That's fair. I like curling. Curling, Charles Barkley could say it's dusting, but there's actually more skill involved. So yeah, do you agree with him?
No, I'm just waiting for you to explain why you like curling.
Because it's just funny. It's just people using brooms on a hockey rink, and it's funny to me.
Playing shuffleboard.
Yeah, basically. Basically.
Playing life-size shuffleboard. It's a
And
very tough. It's
and
very
it feels like
tough.
something I could do.
You think you can?
Yeah. You ever been to a bar? You play shuffleboard all the time.
Yeah, except you're just standing at the end of a table. With curling, you gotta get down really low. You gotta like squat to get the weight.
And you got to like cause
to where
good
you
friction
go.
to get that.
You got to brush as hard as you can. And
How come no one's made a good curling like comedy, like sports comedy about curling?
I'm sure they could, but it really wouldn't go that far. I mean, you could do
Why
it about
not?
you could do it about dodgeball because dodgeball's funny. You get hit in the face.
Speaking of which, speaking of dodgeball and everything with Pro Bowls, how come? And my dad always brings this up when they have the dodgeball competition in the NFL. How come you think they haven't made a dodgeball sequel?
Because the first one was too perfect. I think they are making a dodgeball sequel, though, aren't they?
I don't think so.
I thought that was in the works.
It was, but Ben Stiller and his wife got divorced, and I don't know if they
Brutal.
wanted. Yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, they still could be in the movie together, but yeah, it's. I don't know. Like, I'm surprised they did a sequel for Zoolander and all these other movies, Anchorman. They're not gonna do one for dodgeball.
You know what? They need. You're right. They need to. Ben Stiller needs to man up and say, "Look, I don't care. We're on opposite teams anyway. Maybe they can play real dodgeball
true.
against each other." I mean, dude, that song that got popular from the at least repopularized this past couple of years, that Fleetwood Mac song, "Dreams," I believe it's called, right?
Yeah, the one with the guy.
Cranberry Juice guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So everyone's listening to that, but not many people know that song is Stevie Nicks, her song that she wrote about her divorce from Lindsey Buckingham, as Lindsey Buckingham is playing in the band.
A lot of songs were like that, weren't they?
Yeah.
You could
So
go
if
your
they
own
can-
way, and all that was.
Exactly. So if they can do that,
It's true.
come on, Ben. You guys can make dodgeball too.
I'm looking forward to it.
Boom.
There you go.
He's also a man.
No one makes me bleed my own blood.
What about that stripper grab you sent me for Globo Gym's 50th anniversary?
I thought it was a nice gesture. It was also a man.
He's also a man. It's so good.
Classic flick. And yeah, I'll be watching more of the Winter Olympics this weekend because it's fun to watch. And but I guess no one's in the crowd, huh? They don't want to
No.
in Beijing.
What would you say your favorite event is if you had to choose one?
I told you it's curling.
Oh, no, it's not. Give me a real event that you actually like watching.
Honestly, that's the only one I know.
Really?
I'm not a big Winter Olympics guy. I am more of a Summer Olympics guy. And I do love speed walking. The way they and you can make fun of it all you want, but those people take that shit seriously, as they should. That's a skill.
You can make fun of it all you want as you make fun of it.
I'm not making fun of it. That's what they do. One foot in front of the other.
They do that. You should practice. You know what? You could
I
use
am
one of
practicing.
you could use one of your 2 treadmills, maybe the one that's that actually works, and you can work on your speed walking.
I'm getting prepared, man. I'm jumping from one treadmill to the other, like an OK Go video. Just.
But Lamb,
I
I don't really watch the bobsledding too much, dude. There was
Jamaica's in the bobsled competition again.
nice.
I
Love
know.
that. We got the one Reese and the one Junior.
My favorite line from that movie is John Candy. I don't know why it's my favorite line, but John Candy going, "We didn't come all our way. I didn't come all the way here to get my butt kicked." I don't know why that makes me laugh so much.
Well, that's not even the line.
What is it?
I didn't come all the way to here to get my butt whipped. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm going to do a little whipping on my own. Good night, gentlemen.
I knew you would be the one to correct me with that line. That
Cool
probably was on
Running-
TBS
dude.
last night.
Cool Runnings, like whenever you talk about like favorite movies and stuff,
Yeah.
you don't really talk about the ones that you've seen a billion times in your childhood that you just know the lines of, but you don't really consider it your favorite movie just because it's not that good.
Right.
But Cool Runnings is probably in my top 5 now that I think about it.
Next to Captain Ron.
No.
Is it go Shooter, Captain Ron, Cabin Boy? I'm just naming obscure 90s movies and Shooter because in our previous podcast, you used to talk about that movie every fucking week.
Shooter's sick. But yeah. That movie's so bad. But Cool Runnings, quick story.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old, I was very fortunate. Parents took us to Australia, and we went on a train ride. We were in Sydney, the capital, and then we went on a train ride to Alice Springs. Alice Springs is home to the Ayers Rock, which is somewhere where the Aborigines used to live, or that's a bad way of putting it, but very historic.
Yep.
And on that train ride, it took a couple of days. It was a 2-day train ride, and we had a TV, we had a DVD player, and I was given free reign to choose whatever movie that we all watched. And so I'm 5 years old. I'm thinking, I'm going to make sure everybody is okay with this movie. I'm going to pick one that we can all love. Cool Runnings was that flick. Oh, haven't slowed down ever since. Cool Runnings, one of the best.
Haven't slowed down. I think the epitome of Cool Runnings is there's an episode of Family Guy where they're all in the car together and they're like on a road trip and they're like, let's play a game. Guess the movie. Okay, is it a good movie? It's okay. Cool Runnings. Hey, that's the movie.
Oh man, yeah. It's funny how the main guy, Darius Bennick, is his name.
Oh.
He was obsessed with the Swiss team.
Yeah, he was.
Why are you obsessed with the Swiss team?
Because he wanted to be as good as them.
No, man, Swiss. You trying to get Dougie Doug to go on this
Oh, I
team?
love that actor's name. His name was Dougie Doug. He was in Cool Runnings and That Darn Cat.
Oh my god. When they got to Calgary and it's just completely snowing. Psycho
Yeah.
Man, what you smoking? I'm not smoking.
Isn't that when his dreads are all frozen?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
smoking. I'm breathing. Oh no.
I may have to watch that movie later.
Oh,
I'll put it since I have 2 treadmills in my room and 2 TVs. I'll put Cool Runnings on the top TV and the actual Winter Olympics on the bottom.
yeah, yeah. Go for a little run and try and watch 2 things at once. You
Exactly.
weirdo.
All right, should we talk a little bit about some real sports? Not that the Winter Olympics is not real sports, but like sports that people care about more, honestly.
Sure.
All right, then. Real quick, Steven. Some NBA news. Shams Charania is reporting that the 76ers are pursuing James Harden, and the Nets are open to the trade that would send James Harden to Philly and Ben Simmons to Brooklyn. I don't know if this is going to happen. It's just something that's been on the table. It's interesting we're having a trade deadline before the Super Bowl, and I don't think we've ever experienced that before, but a longer NFL season, it happens. And I first think, why trade James Harden and not Kyrie Irving, given his situation where he is not able to play at home games? But this is a good move, I think. Ben Simmons would be great for the Nets. I just don't think you need to trade away James Harden to do so, but it seems like James Harden doesn't want to be in Brooklyn anymore either.
Does Philadelphia have good strip clubs? That's the number one.
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
Well, then James Harden's going to go. He'll figure out a way. Like, dude, even if you think that trade should happen, which maybe it should, trade James Harden for Ben Simmons. Yeah, that sounds good, but you're getting one head case for another head case. Like, James Harden just needs to go, man. I'm tired of him being in the NBA. Like, it's just a bad look. Everything that he's like, what has he done that's good for the NBA? He's created a bad reputation for players just because every guy now they feel like, oh, everyone's like James Harden. They just go to strip clubs and blow all their money. He has turned the 3-pointer into something of a joke. Let's see here. What else? He's the classic type of basketball player that just looks for a foul so that he can get some free points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this dude is just not good for the NBA. He needs to be gone. And then he had that game against the Kings, man. The Kings were on the first half of a back-to-back, and he was 2 of 11 with 4 points.
Yeah.
He didn't even get to the free throw line. Not once against this Kings defense.
But still, would you rather trade him or Kyrie Irving right now? And I know Kyrie Irving's a better player, but when it comes to like, unless the city of New York changes its vaccine policy, what you're just wasting a roster spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. You know, in a weird way, it's like Kyrie doesn't even look like the worst person in this situation. I know, like I know he's the anti-vax guy, and he's doing it to the detriment of his team, and I understand all of that. But God, the Nets brought in James Harden specifically to win a championship, and now
Yeah.
just because KD is gone, and you don't get the Kyrie thing, like what did he think he was signing up for? Didn't you maybe talk it through with those teammates before? Did
Probably
you maybe
not.
not? Hey, say Kyrie, what are you going to do with the vaccine? Well, I'm not going to take it. All right, well, I'm not going to go to Brooklyn then. I don't know. Maybe all that stuff happened prior to him
Yeah, I
going to
mean,
Brooklyn.
it was early in,
But
before the vaccine and everything. But
true. But come on, man. It's like Harden, just stay. Who cares? Like, why are you requesting a trade already?
well, I mean, is he requesting the trade, or is it just like Daryl Morey's just like fed up and is like, I want James Harden, and the Brooklyn Nets are like, fine, take him at this point.
Oh no, James Harden has made it known that he wants out.
Well, that's just stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
He makes a big stink and wants to get out of Houston, and now he's actually on a good team if they tried hard. And yeah, I don't get it.
This isn't the first. This isn't the first. Time his names come up in trade talks before. It's the first time with Ben Simmons, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't, no one wants to touch him. I mean,
but-
I think Ben Simmons given a new opportunity would flourish in Brooklyn, just playing defense and having Kevin Durant play offense. But I mean, it doesn't go that way. Like, I don't know. I would love to see the Warriors and Nets in the finals. But the Brooklyn Nets seem like a mess right now.
Did you see the? Well, there's that. But did you see the trade with the Clippers?
Yeah, they trade away Eric Bledsoe, and all their like good players right now without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Oh, yeah, none of their good players, really.
Well, isn't it Eric Bledsoe's a good? Oh, I haven't actually kept up with the Clippers. I just saw that they beat the Lakers last night.
Eric Bledsoe sucks, but oh, that's so brutal.
They're doing better than the Lakers.
But they got Norman Powell, and let me pull.
Oh, they
this thing up.
did?
Yeah. When my stream crapped out, so did my internet, and I had it pulled up. But hang on, let me.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
Let me get this. Let me get this back here, just so we can be accurate. All right, Norman Powell and Robert Covington are going to the Clips, and in return, they receive Keon Johnson, Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, and a 2025 second round pick. So here, I don't know much about Keon Johnson, but I do know the other two guys. Eric Bledsoe is just not that good anymore. And then Justice Winslow, all he could do is play defense. Ever since his time going back with the Heat, he's been a terrible offensive player. So the Clippers, they got stronger, but that's an actual trade that happened. And damn, man, the Clippers just destroyed the Blazers in a trade. What the hell is going on? Dame, get out of there, man. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's just surprising that he wants to stay there, and I thought he maybe be going to Brooklyn or Philadelphia, but we'll see what happens. The trade deadline is happening next Thursday, so we'll see what happens there. But
do you think the Warriors need to do anything? Because they have been without Iguodala, Bjelica, and Otto Porter Jr. I don't know how much longer they're going to be without those guys. Draymond Green just announced that he's going to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. If that's what he's hoping, like as soon, that's the soonest he can hope to return. Kevon Looney is your only guy at the 5 right now. I mean, do they need another big, or are they actually going to try and go for a trade here?
Well, let's do our Warriors talk here.
Okay.
No, I would think that they could get somebody in the buyout market. I don't think they need to go crazy and get a big, another big, because I know Kevon Looney is the only guy on the roster right now. And it alarms me that Bob Myers, I think it was yesterday, talked about how James Wiseman, he's been on the cusp so many times of coming back, and then just something happens with the knee. Yep. That's not a good sign. Not happy about that. And also, at this point, James Wiseman is such a young player to just throw him into the fire when he really didn't develop last season, and this team is rolling. They're the second best team in the West right now. I'm not relying on him for, critical minutes. I'm not relying on him. I'm just relying on him to be another big body at this point. And then we'll figure out what his role is next season, if he even still plays with the Warriors. So, yes, I do think they need to make a move, but I want to make a trade. I would wait for... Is Marc Gasol playing in the Spanish league, and is that league going on right now? Do you
I
know?
think Marc Gasol would be available.
Yeah, I would do that. I would go get Marc Gasol. He wanted to come to the Warriors before he went to the Lakers. He's not going to give you much, in the playoffs. He's bigger now. Well, I'm saying he's bigger now. He's just, older now. Um, he's not, he's kind of slow, but you just need another big body. So
Right.
I would probably go after Marc Gasol, but I
Well,
want to make a trade. I don't
by
think
the
you need to.
way, we'll
Yeah.
keep on this, and we will talk, I'm sure, about the NFL and Jim Harbaugh and all that later on. But just some breaking news: the Colts
Yeah.
hired Gus Bradley as defensive coordinator.
Interesting.
So Eberflus goes to the Bears from the Colts, and Gus Bradley poaches him from the Colts. Wonder if the Colts are going to be signing Casey Hayward to go along with Gus Bradley in that scheme.
Well, I would suggest that with, Josh McDaniels, he interviewed, I don't know his first name off the top of my head, but Desai, the Bears defensive coordinator from a year ago.
Yeah.
I would, just judging on his time in New England, I would assume that he wants to run a 3-4 defense. So he's asking, guys like Desai,
Patrick Graham from the Giants.
Brian Flores' name hasn't been brought up yet for defensive coordinator. I think that'd be a good move for him at this point, but we'll see what happens with everything with the lawsuit. So we'll see, is Max Crosby going to play standing outside linebacker next to Yannick Ngakoue? We'll see about that. They may be changing personnel up and the whole scheme up. And Gus Bradley usually wants to run a 4-3 defense. So that's a good move for Gus Bradley. The Colts have a really good defense, with Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner. So they'll be a good defense. But Josh McDaniels needs to find a good defensive coordinator to keep that, defense rolling too. So sad to see Gus Bradley go, but he's going to a good team.
Yeah, that's going to be a very good move for him. I mean, they got pieces on that defense. But getting back to the Warriors, we've seen Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody get extended minutes.
Kuminga.
More so Jonathan
Great
Kuminga.
dunk last night. Sorry to cut you off, but
I mean, Kuminga in the fourth quarter, unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal whenever he gets going into the fourth quarter. When the Warriors have a big lead, normally that's the time when, the Warriors are up by double digits. They don't have much time left. You could tell that the other team's given up. It's garbage time. But Jonathan Kuminga takes full advantage of it. And I wonder if they gave Moses Moody those starting minutes, because he's gotten like 25 to 30 minutes a game ever since he started. And I think they're 4-0 in his time as a starter. So that's pretty good. But I do think that was maybe like a tryout in some way. Like, hey, we'll give this guy some time. Let's see what Moody can do. And you know what? Like, we'll know within these next few games whether he's actually a good fit or not. Let's bring him up from Santa Cruz. I know they needed bodies, so that's the primary reason. But I wonder if there was also a little bit of, maybe people are calling in and asking, inclining them about Moses Moody in a possible trade. So I do wonder about that. But that all being said, they're rolling right now. There's no need to make any sort of sudden moves, like trading away any of these guys on this roster. It'd just be a bad move. And all that, Draymond, if he comes back, next month, maybe a month and a half from now, like, you can survive without Draymond for that time. And it seems like as they've gone on an 8-game win streak, they've pretty much, the defense isn't the same, because when you're without a guy who's a defensive player of the year candidate every year, you're not going to be the same defense. But on offense, it seems like they figured out how to play just a smooth brand of basketball, one where they don't need Draymond running the point, even though he might be playing the 4 or 5. And I think a lot of that has to do with Klay Thompson and the way that he's looked and how he played last night. I mean, this is a different Klay Thompson than we're seeing to what we've seen previously, not so much shooting wise, but passing wise. So I think they can survive without having to do any sort of major trade. And the Warriors aren't known for that anyway.
No, the only trade I can remember them making at the trade deadline is the one for D'Angelo Russell in exchange for Andrew Wiggins. And that was more for the future, and the team was terrible back then. So
that was just to get D'Angelo Russell off the team.
Pretty much.
Like,
but and Andrew Wiggins here. Yeah, and Andrew Wiggins is playing great. So, no, Bob Myers is not making any big moves, and he doesn't need to. I agree with you, Steven. Draymond Green, don't take as much time as you need, but also get healthy. I think the expectation at this point is for him to come back with like a month left in the season. So if he comes back by March, good for me. get your reps in a little bit, get back to basketball shape, and we'll be good for the playoffs. That's all about.
It's
But-
really rare to have a player do a press conference on that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, Draymond's his own guy now. He's got TNT career going, and he's his own media member now. So interesting to see that he gave. But you know what
35
though?
minutes straight on it. It's great.
No, but we also we've seen that in the past. Like I remember, Clay did some press conferences to give an update on how he's doing. So the Warriors do make their players available to give their own updates on their injuries.
Yeah, I guess so.
Speaking of Clay, Kalou Kalei, damn, great performance last night.
Wait, what?
Kalou Kalei. That's what I usually yell when he hits a three.
Oh,
Yeah.
Why?
It's like a phrase, Kalou Kalei.
Is there a reasoning for it? Does it mean
I just heard it
something?
in Simpsons one time. Anyway,
Oh.
so Klay Thompson, what was he? 8 of 11 last night from three.
8 of 11 overall.
8 of 11
7
overall.
7 of 9 from 3. He was 7 for 7 in the first half, then 0
Just-
for 2 in the second.
Looked like Clay, and even new Clay. He's got great handles now. Like I don't remember him dribbling this much. Do you?
No, see, that's the thing. That's the difference. You're not going to see 4 dribbles for 43 points Clay anymore.
Yeah.
Like that Clay's gone. You're not seeing 11 dribbles for 60. That's not happening
Yeah.
anymore. This dude had 7 assists. Like
God,
how
and-
often
And some
how-
of the shots he was just
when he made that one, dude, how funny was that when he knocked down that one fading away from the corner, then he runs to the opposite end of the floor cheering with the crowd, goes out of bounds on the baseline as if they'd already called the timeout when the Kings didn't call a timeout. Eventually they did, but it's just Clay is, I don't know, man. And there's something about the hair too, something about the hair and the
headband, man.
I think he's found his perfect look right now.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he's been searching for it. I think he's officially found it.
And dropping a great semi-pro line in the press conference last night. We needed a new washing machine.
We need
Perfect.
a new washing machine. Oh,
Yeah, and Steph Curry, everyone's freaking out about his shooting slump. He looked fantastic against the Rockets in the fourth quarter. And some nights, he's just going to have Clay pick up the slack. And I'm not saying that Steph had a bad game last night. He didn't. But both of them combined for 43 points. I just think that things are rolling. Don't screw it up. They needed a little bit of time to get back in the groove of things with Clay back in the rotation. This team is going to be lethal when they're all good. It's interesting to see what role James Wiseman will have when he's healthy, if he's ever healthy. And yeah, we'll wait on Draymond to get healthy. And congrats on him going to the All-Star game. And yeah, it'll be fun to watch going forward.
I just want to see Steph, Clay, and Dre play together.
They will.
That's
Oh,
all I
All-Star
want to
game?
see.
Or no, in reality.
Huh?
In the All-Star game or in real life?
In real life.
Like, yeah.
They haven't
like the All-Star
played
game's
since
not real life.
2019. They still haven't played this season.
They'll play.
I know. I just want to see it, though.
Well, you'll see it. You'll see it.
Ugh.
Let's get to some of these NFL coaching hires in the last couple of days since we last did the podcast. We talked about it on the podcast while it was breaking, but we got the details more of it now. So the Minnesota Vikings asked Jim Harbaugh to come to Minnesota, not that far of a trip from Michigan, but he flew in, and it seems that Harbaugh was under the impression that he was going to be the GM. Turns out that was not the case. They sat and interviewed for 9 hours, and in the end, the Minnesota Vikings basically were not thrilled with what Jim Harbaugh was presenting as far as head coach. And that makes sense with the new GM coming from the 49ers. He's more of an analytics guy. He's a smart guy. He wants to play the percentages a little bit, and Jim Harbaugh is an old school coach. So when it turned out, and I also heard that ownership, Jim, when you think about Jim Harbaugh, you think of him winning with the 49ers, but you also remember the antics of him just, acting like a child sometimes when it calls it and go his way. So they weren't really thrilled with that. And it's becoming more of a younger man's thing of, being a young, whether you're an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, mostly offensive coordinators these days, but it's a young man's game to coach the NFL now. And Jim Harbaugh says today that he is not going to entertain any more NFL offers, which I don't believe for a second. But I wonder if the NFL is interested in Jim Harbaugh anymore, because it seemed like this was made for him to be the coach of the Vikings. We heard all the rumors with the Raiders, and an NFL team passed on Jim Harbaugh. And I'm not believing for a second that he flew down the day of National Signing Day not to go take that job. And in the end, he comes back and tells Michigan, I'm staying for now.
Yeah. Power struggle. Like
Yeah.
this dude. Yeah, the thing with the Niners was he made that switch from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick, and rightfully so. But it was him that made that decision. Him wanting all the power. It's hard for me to imagine what it's like being in a position that he's been in Michigan, and just being a college coach in general compared to going to the NFL. I mean, it's just like Nick Saban going to the Dolphins and going to Alabama. But like the amount of say that you get with everything in your team, it's got to be so different coming to an NFL team. And you probably feel like as a head coach, you deserve the same things that you're getting that he would have gotten or that he is in Michigan. So I was surprised by it, but I don't know how. I mean, did you see Kirk in the little skills competition yesterday? I think Kirk Cousins was going up against some defenders, and I don't know. It's just he probably avoided a good job because I don't know, man. I don't know where the Vikings are in the NFC. I don't know how good they are. They're a weird team. They're good one time and they're good one week and then they're crap the next. I don't know.
But I think that's based on coaching. I honestly think, the NFC is going to be interesting next year. We brought it up already. If Rodgers leaves the Packers, Tom Brady's retiring, the Saints don't have Sean Payton anymore. It could be that you're going up against the Rams and the Vikings are one of those teams, or the Cowboys or whatever. So I think the NFC is wide open next season, and the Vikings thought that they're better off with Kevin O'Connell as their head coach, who's the quarterback coach for the Rams. So, he's the offensive coordinator too, so they'll have to wait for him.
Yeah.
OC, yeah. So they'll have to wait for him to win the Super Bowl to come back. But
been? Can you just give me some insight here, because I'm not the biggest college football guy. As you know, I'll sit down and watch games, but I'm not going to act like I understand every coach and all that. And all those the college football sayings like, oh, such a Big 12 game. What is this, a Big 12 game? I see that all the time. I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
I don't really. I watch casually college football, but I'm not as whatever big game's on, I'll turn it on.
So what's been the biggest knock on Harbaugh since he's been at Michigan?
He can't beat Ohio State.
That's it,
basically.
Can't win the big game there, huh?
And he did, but also like I was telling you and like I was telling Alon, watching that playoff game against Georgia, it just seemed to me like he can't win. Like the SEC is so dominant; it's only going to get more dominant, I hope, with Texas and Oklahoma. But yeah, like the recruiting is, I mean, they gotta they gotta just do better. Like
they can't be like USC and say, hey, there's going to be a bunch of opportunities for an NIL deal. Come over here. It's
exactly.
Not be like other colleges.
Yeah, you can't compete with them. So I think if there was a time for Harbaugh to make a move, I think it was now. And it seems like the Raiders and Vikings passed on him.
There's got to be a reason for that. I mean,
well, no, because probably the new GM in Minnesota was like, "This is how we're going to do things here," and he was like, "Hey, buddy, I only know you from that one season in San Francisco. I'm not willing to do all this shit for that."
Yeah. I mean, I'd like Jim Harbaugh in the NFL, though. I really would.
Yeah, he's, listen, another thing that Jim Harbaugh is a great coach, motivator, but I don't know if you feel this way. I have a hard time with coaches that don't do much. And what I mean by that is he doesn't call plays. He doesn't do anything offensively. I'm sure obviously he's part of the game plan and everything, but I don't know. Like, in my opinion, I like coaches that call plays. If you're an offensive coach, you call the offensive plays. If you're a defensive coach, you call the defensive plays. And Jim Harbaugh doesn't do that. So to me, like, he's a great motivator who calls timeouts and challenges when it's appropriate.
So you're saying he's like a better version of Mike McCarthy?
Yes. Basically what I'm saying.
But the thing that I want is chaos, and something that's missing in the NFL. Something that's missing in the NFL. I thought it was there with Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur, but it's not. They need a great coaching rivalry in this one. Coaches who hate each other. Everyone hated Jim Harbaugh. Jim Schwartz hated Jim Harbaugh at the time. Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh did not like each other. Going back to their days at Stanford and USC.
Yeah.
So Jim Harbaugh can be the heel of the NFL. You don't really have that right now among coaches.
But I don't think owners want that right now.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. But I just want chaos. And I think Jim Harbaugh would cause all of that.
Of course he would. But there's enough chaos to go around the NFL. Jim Harbaugh doesn't need to add fuel to the fire for that one.
Right. But
especially with coaching hirings.
Could you imagine seeing Jim Harbaugh looking at Kirk Cousins, bewildered about the decision that he just made? You just lined up under the guard. What are you doing? Yeah, right guard. That's the center. Center has the ball. And
I just remember Anquan Bolden. I remember Anquan Bolden in the Panthers playoff game, just like going to the side and being like, "Coach, you need to chill. Like you're acting like a child right now."
Hey man, he just loves football. That's it.
I know he loves football, but you gotta calm down, my friend. You gotta calm down a little bit.
Poor Jim Harbaugh.
He'll be all right.
But we hardly knew you. He'll come back though.
In the NFL?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see.
Dude, I haven't showed you this yet, have I? I got a couple of footballs up there too.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Yeah, it's a deflated
encased in glass.
Yeah, you know who that is?
Kirk Cousins.
Tim Brown.
Oh,
signed football.
Did you get my Kirk Cousins joke?
I did. Jesse's mom got it for me.
Nice. Timmy Brown, touchdown Timmy Brown?
She had it this whole time. And
sweet.
I was like, can I have it?
Balls?
Yeah. No, just the one.
Okay. What's the other one?
That is, I believe, from the first game at Levi's, because Jesse worked at Levi's as the ticket usher, and she got a bunch of stuff from it. I think it's from the first game at Levi's or something like that. So
I want to say they lost to the Bears. Brandon Marshall with three touchdowns.
You are correct. Damn. God, I don't know. Sometimes you people that can do that. You people that can remember the most, just everything about the sports. It makes me question whether I should be involved in sports media or not.
No, you're fine. You're just normal. You're not weird like me. But next week we'll put it to the test.
The only memory I have is like Rolando McClain body slamming Danny Amendola when he was with the Rams and when they were with St. Louis, because I was like the most excited that the Coliseum had ever been when I was there in the stands.
Yeah.
So
next week we'll put it to the test, because we'll see if you can stump me with any Super Bowl trivia. But we'll do that next week.
The thing is, I can't stump you with anything.
We'll see.
I've seen you do it. It's the weird. It's like someone say, "Yeah, you should use that at a bar," and you're like, "No."
Yeah, to pick up women, that doesn't work. Hey, you want to know the score of the 1974 Super Bowl? Nope. Okay, then I'm going home. Other head coaching moves. Last night, Doug Peterson is named Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. No surprise there. It's just unfortunate that they basically gave the job to Byron Leftwich, and then because he didn't want to work with Trent Baalke, he doesn't get the job, which is kind of sad. Considering, I guess now they're hiring Rick Spielman to be the buffer, so the coach, Doug Peterson, doesn't have to deal with Trent Baalke. They could have done that easily for Brian Leftwich to hire Adrian Wilson in some capacity, but if they don't feel like Adrian Wilson's not ready to be a GM, it is what it is. Excuses.
Doug Peterson looks like Jacksonville, doesn't he?
He fits the bill, and he lives in Jupiter, Florida. Doug Peterson got a bad rap, and he's the product of losing a game the last game of the season and looking terribly, and then the coach firing him because it looked pretty bad. He got a lot of shit for Philadelphia with his relationship with Carson Wentz. He won a Super Bowl though, so we'll see how it goes. His reputation's not the best these days in the NFL, despite winning a Super Bowl, but Doug Peterson deserves a second chance in Jacksonville, so be interested to see where it goes.
Look, man, as long as he doesn't ruin Trevor Lawrence's career, then I'm all good with it. Because, that dude, already he's being wasted over there in Jacksonville. And as long as Trent Baalke's still there, then you're not going to get anything good. But as long as Doug Peterson can help him progress in his second year and make strides, because Trevor Lawrence seems like he could be a pretty good quarterback. Didn't DJ Chark get hurt for the season in the middle of the year?
Yeah, but he's a free agent, and I don't expect him to come back.
Damn, so they're not going to really have many pieces.
Well, they could. One name I'm interested to see. Well, Urban Meyer's not there anymore, but Um, I've heard rumors that the Saints may move on from Michael Thomas, and Jacksonville's not a sexy place to go to, but that could be a piece for Trevor Lawrence to throw to.
Jeez, man. Michael Thomas going from New Orleans to Jacksonville.
Yeah, we
Brutal.
haven't seen Michael Thomas in 2 years,
True.
so we'll see about
Yeah.
that. Real quick here, Steven. Mike McDaniel, your favorite coach, offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, is interviewing with the Miami Dolphins today. Now, there's stuff going on with Stephen Ross. Not looking good. Don't know what his future is in owning that team. The Miami Dolphins will be a team regardless of who the owner is. But should Mike McDaniel take that job, considering what's going on with Stephen Ross right now?
Well, my first answer is yes, because you are going to be the head coach of an NFL team, and what's going on with Brian Flores obviously is terrible. And you know what? I mean, doing what they did, doing what Stephen Ross did, the team that he owns, like it's no offense to the players, but hey, make the players go elsewhere and just don't let the Dolphins play for a year. Like take that franchise out, just take that franchise out
Play
of
with
the
31
NFL.
teams.
What?
Play with 31 teams. We'll figure it out.
Yes, just figure it out there. Like take the Dolphins completely out of it. But if this is your chance to get a head coaching job, you take it. But there's also got to be a condition, and that condition is that he shouldn't have to answer for anything that's happened in these past couple of weeks.
He wasn't there for it.
Well, exactly, but that doesn't matter sometimes with these guys. Like I've never felt more bad for a coach than when I saw Dusty Baker having to answer questions at a press conference next to Jim Crane and Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve, all those guys who were involved within the cheating scandal with the Astros, when Dusty Baker had none of it, and he was still forced to answer questions. So under one condition, Mike McDaniel is probably going to say in his very charmed way, I'm not going to answer any questions, man. But seriously, as long as like he's not involved in it, then yeah, of course you take that job. It's a head coaching job in the NFL, even though it doesn't seem right now that a head coaching job in the NFL is has that much integrity to it, at least with the Dolphins. But
yeah, well, one opening that's still available is the Houston Texans, and it's been narrowed down to 3 people.
Oh boy,
Jonathan Gannon, who is the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, very young defensive coordinator in his first year. We'll see if he gets that job. Brian Flores, who is suing the NFL, and he's trying to reconnect with Deshaun Watson from all the reports you hear, and it doesn't sound like Deshaun Watson wants to play for the Texans anymore, and they don't want him playing either, so don't know how that's going to work out. And then there is Josh McCown, and given everything that's going on with Brian Flores and this lawsuit, we talked about it last podcast. I like Josh McCown. If they hire Josh McCown with no NFL coaching experience, how do you think this plays out in the media and everything? And do the Texans just act naive and just say, like, you think he's the best man for the job?
Of course, that's what they're going to do. But good Lord, it's going to be such an embarrassment for them. What was he, an assistant for a high school team? I think that that's the most coaching experience that he's had.
Yes.
But if I'm Josh McCown, I'm watching The Longest Yard and thinking, okay, Burt Reynolds can go out for a play, go out in pads on the final play of the game when they need me most. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go throw myself for a block so he can open up a running lane for whoever's there.
Yeah.
But that's such a bad look, man.
I don't know if it's going to happen.
It
but
can't.
Well, he's the favorite right now. John McClain is that's what he's reporting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next week because we're running out of time here with some of these head coaching positions. They gotta get a head coach in there soon. And if I had to guess right now, I would say Dennis Allen's the coach with the Saints, Mike McDaniel's the coach with the Dolphins, and I would say Josh McCown's going to be your coach with the Texans.
Kind of crazy that Dennis Allen hasn't been announced for the Saints job, isn't it? Like I felt like that was going to happen.
Yeah, but they're I hate saying this term now, crossing off all the boxes, but they want to go through every good candidate, and I commend them for interviewing Brian Flores and Eric Bieniemy. I just hope it's a real interview.
Right. You just don't know anymore.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And did you see, like, speaking of what, now that we're here,
yeah,
did you see John Elway and his response?
Yeah.
Like, dude, can you at least acknowledge what Brian Flores is trying to fight for here? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and even if he wasn't hungover as was claimed, like, don't you want to show your coach some respect by maybe not going on a flight at midnight when the interview's at 7 a.m. anyway?
Yeah.
Like, maybe fit your schedule around interviewing him. I don't know, a time you're free so that you can give him the proper respect. Like,
Yeah.
that I just saw that and I was like, John Elway, what are you doing, man? What are you defending yourself for?
He's not been the best when it comes to respecting players. I remember when he waited for he gave the ultimatum to Elvis Dumervil, where he was like, "You better take this pay cut by a certain time, otherwise we're cutting you." And because of a fax machine, they cut him. A guy that they were willing to bring back, and he was willing to take the pay cut, but because of a fax machine issue, they cut Elvis Dumervil. And everything worked out. He won a Super Bowl as the general manager for the Broncos, but a bad look for old Johnny Elway. Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
The NFL's a mess.
Yeah. But real quick here, about the situation. What Brian Flores is accusing the Dolphins of doing is very serious. And I find it interesting that Hugh Jackson goes on to these shows and he's just saying, I was given a bad team. I wasn't given a chance to succeed. But Hugh, no one told you that you had to take a bribe to lose games. There's so many coaches that are put in bad situations because they'd be given a shit team. It's going to happen this season. I'm sure Josh McCown's been giving a terrible roster with the Houston Texans. But that doesn't mean that there's something going on there. So for Hugh Jackson to take this opportunity to say, like, I was wrong just as much as Brian Flores, I don't believe that's the case.
You don't think so?
I don't think it's the same situation. Just because you're given a bad roster doesn't mean it's the same thing as Brian Flores being told to lose games.
But he was saying he was incentivized to lose them, though,
No. He went on these shows on yesterday, on Thursday, and it wasn't that he was incentivized to lose games. It was just that he was given a crappy roster.
Oh, my God.
Hugh, keep drinking your Baileys and coffee, my man.
I mean, that's
getting a manicure.
Well, that's what tanking is from a front office.
Like, yeah, but that happens, though.
Yeah, that's regular tanking.
Exactly.
It's not bribing your team to tank. That's
not the same thing.
Come on, hey, we're gonna build this crap. We're gonna pull a major league here, build this crappy roster so that we can get rid of so I can get rid of this franchise, even though it's not the same thing as that. So we get a higher draft pick. Like, oh boy.
Yeah. Real quick here, Steven, before we get to the interview with my pops, you wanted to talk about what's going on with Spotify and the artists that are leaving because of Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, it was very interesting, man, because I haven't listened to him for... Actually, I was listening to him at the beginning of the pandemic. First, what's funny is, like, now he's known as this kind of Alex Jones 2.0 to a lot of people, just a crazy conspiracy theorist type of guy, where when I listened to his podcast, sure, there was, alien conspiracy theories and stuff being thrown around, but, sometimes it's funny just to hear people get high and then talk about aliens. And at the beginning of the pandemic, he wasn't bringing on like a bunch of, experts, doctors in their field, whatever. He was just bringing on his comedian friends, and they were all talking about how they've experienced the pandemic. So for me, at the beginning, it kind of gave me a sense of relief, but also those episodes are like 3 hours long. So I didn't really have a ton of time just to listen to every single episode. And then eventually I just kind of stopped, phased out, fizzled out. And then he tested positive for COVID, said that he used a horse tranquilizer or whatever it is, a horse medicine for horses or whatever it was to get better. And then I'm seeing all this stuff about how now he's spreading misinformation. He had a couple of interviews with it's headlined by a couple of interviews with these doctors, one of which is has always made these incredibly just false claims about COVID, about the times that we're living in. So now Joe Rogan has this label on him that he just spreads misinformation, and that's really all he does. But then I watched it, and then I heard, Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, they pulled out of Spotify because of Joe Rogan. And it's no shock there, because those two people probably don't care about money at this point in their lives. They really do care about integrity, because they're losing a lot of money by taking their stuff off Spotify. But when I saw Joe Rogan, because I haven't listened again, I haven't listened for the past couple of years or
Right.
the past year or so, whatever it is, year and a half. But when I saw Joe Rogan's apology, or not his apology, but his video explaining what happened and just how he's been labeled as such, because all I've got to go off of are these articles, in the Washington Post and all this stuff, kind of explaining everything. But I will give Rogan this. His podcast, when I was listening to it, there were times when he would say something, but it would be taken completely out of context and people would get outraged over it. And he's always made this he's always made this claim that he doesn't know much. Like, he doesn't know much. He brings these people on because he thinks they're interesting and he interviews them so he can learn a little more about it. Now, he did say that the mistake that he made is that he should probably do some more research after the fact, so maybe he can correct some of these claims. And I'm not saying he's in the right at all with how he's been handling stuff the past 6 months or year or whatever, however long the vaccine's been around. But it's just I heard that 10-minute video he made, and I was just thinking, like, that was his aim with the podcast originally, was just to interview these people with not much of a plan, not really knowing what they were going to say. He just wanted to learn. And I think we kind of like need something like that in a way, because we don't really get too much of the other side's opinion and actually getting a voice to it. We hear all these things, but we don't really get too many voices to it. I don't know. I was just thinking, like, I've heard Rogan before, and he's not like a bad dude. He doesn't wish anything bad upon anybody. Now, granted, he's, if you don't get the vaccine, then it's proven that, you're much more prone to getting sick from COVID and all these different things. But it's just the way that he's been labeled lately is just, I don't know. It's just weird, man. I don't know what to make of it. Like, I understood his 10-minute video. I understood where he was coming from. It doesn't make anything that he's been doing right the past year, but just knowing him as a podcast host and listening to him for a little bit, he struck me as a curious guy. Now I'm seeing these headlines about like him calling out liberals and all this stuff, and I don't know how much I truly buy into that, because I'm sure there was something taken out of context, but I also know that Joe Rogan like sometimes just says stupid shit, and he admits that all the time.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of his.
Yeah.
I've caught clips in the past of his podcast when he had celebrities on, and I found them entertaining, but I never went out of my way to watch them.
Right.
And he has his opinions about vaccines and whatnot, and the
They're
thing
not
that I
right.
don't,
They're not right opinions, that's for
yeah,
sure.
and he, a lot of people follow what he says, and I know it's like a joke to be like, Dr. Rogan and whatnot, and that's what Aaron Rodgers quoted when he was on the Pat McAfee show. It's his own podcast. I'm not saying take it down. I don't believe in that, but I don't have to listen to it either and agree with it.
No.
But I will say, it's Neil Young, right?
Yes.
Keep on rocking in the free world. But he doesn't want his music on Spotify.
Yeah.
And Joni Mitchell. I respect what they're doing, but also, if you look at what Apple is doing and iTunes is doing, your music's on there too. Like, wherever, if you look hard enough in some companies, you'll find shady shit going down. So you could say take my music off of Spotify because of what other programming you put on there, but at the same time, like, you got to look at what other platforms are playing your music, and it's not always going to be good.
Yeah. It's weird, man. It's weird because people, I think, that are opposed to the vaccine are looking for someone to feed into the narrative that they're creating around it, and Joe Rogan is doing that. Like, I tried listening to that. I think it was Peter McCullough was his name. This dude who's just, he's very well published, the most published in his field, but he's also known for making outrageous claims. He's said stuff like, the government did this on purpose. It's in all this stuff. And I mean, he just had on the champion, Juliana Pena, who just beat Amanda Nunes in the biggest upset in UFC history. She just straight up says it's a money grab. Like, there's way too much, and people are listening to it, but it's just, I wish people would have done their research a little more than actually taking his advice. Because you're right, people do. I don't know, man. It's just weird because I used to listen to it all the time, and I really liked his podcast, and I liked his conversations with comedians, and he genuinely seemed like a good person. And I remember, dude, when COVID started, he was scared shitless.
I know he was talking to. I mean, I think the story was he was taking like 5 COVID tests a day or something, or 3 or
Dude.
something. Yeah.
I mean, he'd always be having them because he'd want to bring people to his show so that he'd test people right away. And he was scared shitless of it. But then he changes his tune and starts saying bad things about masks and people who wear them. And that's when I really started to get like turned off. I'm like, okay, now you're going against everything that the government, that whoever is trying to help. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to gain from this conversation. I kind of just wanted to bring it up. I don't really have an end game to it.
No, it's just a weird.
Dude, we are in a weird time, and just where like Joe Rogan is headlining it. Just the guy from Fear Factor is now like the face
radio,
the face of misinformation. That's just wild, man.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's something.
It's definitely something.
I wonder what the comedian friends think about it, because I guarantee you, like, they can't be. I mean, like, I know they've been on, but like Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer and that circle of comedians that are all within that podcast circle, whose podcasts are actually better than their stand-up nowadays. But,
ooh.
Which is true, because they're actually just letting it fly and kind of like they're almost like writing out loud, and so it's even funnier. And their stand-up acts, it kind of dilutes it because you hear them talk so much. I wonder what they think about it, but it's just a weird situation, man.
Yeah.
Very odd.
No, it's weird. And he used to have a lot of celebrities on back in the day when he did the show from LA and he moved to Austin. And, you know, he could do whatever he wants with his show, but it's a very different show than what I remember it being. That's
correct.
Yes.
Then watching and having gotten into UFC a little bit, not to the word of Rogan, but just actually shout out to Mauser for that. Mauser's been a big part of that, because Mauser's a huge UFC guy and we talk about it every day. So shout out to him. But like also like hearing Rogan on the commentary, it's odd.
Yeah.
It's odd. It's like, oh, this dude is doing it. Oh, well.
Yeah.
I'll try to forget about it for now. Separate the art from the artist.
It's a hard thing to do, but that's my thing, is just separate the two.
Yeah.
This one's gone long. This podcast. Am I coming through clear, or is my Wi-Fi shitting out?
It did for a little bit, but you're back.
Okay. I got like a little Wi-Fi thing in the corner. It's been doing that a lot lately. What we're gonna do here is I'll split this up. We'll play my Pops interview here, but for as podcast purposes, this will be its own episode, and I'll post Greg's interview as a separate thing. So this is not a 3-hour long podcast we're doing. So let's finish up with the things that I wanted to discuss. Speaking of artists that have their music on Spotify, I don't know if you noticed, Steven, but the Chili Peppers have a new album coming out and a new song that came out today. Did you listen?
Oh, really? No.
Yeah. They got a new album coming out April 1st. Hopefully it's true, not just some April Fool's joke. And they got a song that came out today called Black Sunday. Not a bad song, but Anthony Kiedis, for some reason, is doing an Irish accent in the beginning of it. It's like
I'm into that.
You're into that? Okay.
Anthony Kiedis is I mean, what? It's not like Around the World where they just have...
it's not that. It's not that. I know exactly what you're talking about. He's not doing that.
No.
But it's kind of like he's doing like a weird, like, you, and we all drink together. I got my fill of whiskey and beer.
Ugh. Whoa. Anthony Lynn being hired as the assistant head coach of the 49ers.
What?
How about that? It says here, Anthony Lynn is being hired as the assistant head coach of the 49ers.
That's interesting.
From Adam Schefter.
Then I think they're preparing for Mike McDaniel to leave.
Has to be.
Interesting. We'll see if that happens.
Chili Peppers. Very mad. Because the Red Hot Chili Peppers are the one band that I wanted to see live. They're the one remaining band.
Levi's. SoFi this summer, man. Let's go,
I
July.
know. And I had tickets to Bottle Rock 2019. And
Yeah.
the Bottle Rock was in 2020. I had
Yep.
it for one day. I didn't really have much of a plan. I think I was going to go on my own. And John Frusciante have made his way back to being the
My
lead
God.
guitarist for the team.
I'm
or for
so
the
glad
team.
Frusciante's back. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's a different game when Frusciante's just slaying those tasty licks.
Yes. So I can't wait for that new album to come out, but I just got to see him live once. Like that's the one band before I die that I got to see live. No
Yeah.
doubt.
I saw him play an Oracle. I'll never forget. Whoever their guitarist that's been filling in for Frusciante for the last few years.
Josh something.
Yeah, he wore a Richard Seymour jersey in at Oracle, and I was like, oh, good for him. But I know they're Laker fans. They're wearing LA stuff, so yeah. But I'm glad Frusciante's back, and I look forward to the new album coming out. But real quick here, Steven, before we play this interview, you've been watching, as this fantastic show on Netflix, Murderville, with Will Arnett. And if you don't know the premise of the show, it's amazing. They bring in an actor who doesn't know anything that's going on with the plot. It is like written situations. It's a cop drama. They have to figure out a murder. And it's Will Arnett playing opposite Conan O'Brien, Marshawn Lynch, all these other celebrities. And they are improvising the whole situation where Conan O'Brien and Marshawn Lynch don't know what the hell's going on. And it's hilarious. I watched the first 2 episodes. You did too. Conan O'Brien's great at improv, so he's able to flow with it. Marshawn's good at it too, actually. It's very fun. It's hilarious. Everybody should check it out on Netflix.
Yeah, there's something about bloopers for me that it's almost just as special as the show. Like Always Sunny is a heavily improvised show.
Yes.
And watching the bloopers sometimes can be like artistic because you're watching them improv lines on the fly. Like there was one where they're walking through I think it's where Dennis is the golden god and he's going crazy about that. And they're in this car parking lot and Charlie Day is walking with him and Mac and they're talking shit about Charlie and Charlie's not even involved in the conversation. And it's just Mac and Dennis talking. And then Mac's like, yeah, I don't think he gets us, man. And then Charlie's like, yeah, I don't think he gets us, man. And then Mac and Dennis like look at him and they just both start laughing. And they're like, wait, do that again? You just say, wait, we're talking about you, and then they start just improvising lines and creating a script out of it. There's some art in that. But with Murderville, you are watching improv live, essentially. But in
kind
a
of like
produced
Whose Lines It
format.
Anyway.
Yes, but in a produced format. It is genius. And when Conan O'Brien, they start, they go to the murder scene and Conan O'Brien starts improvising his first lines and he just starts like listing, like he just starts naming, calling the murder for what it was and just like reciting the lines that have already been said. Then you just see Will Arnett start laughing. And he's like, are you just gonna say what the murder was? Is that all you're gonna do? And then he starts cracking up. And it was the best. So I highly recommend it for everybody. And Marshawn, how different is that, dude? We've seen athletes be actors before, and LeBron and Trainwreck, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Airplane and all that. And sure, they're funny, but not improv without a script. Marshawn was fantastic.
Marshawn has come a long way from claiming that he doesn't like to speak in public. Murderville, he is hilarious in it. He just riffs with Will Arnett. He doesn't skip a beat. He doesn't get flustered. He doesn't get nervous. Marshawn Lynch could become a great actor. He is funny too. He has great timing. I don't know if many people know about the show, but people should need to check it out. It is very well done. It's hilarious. I need to check out the rest of the episodes, but from the first 2 that I've watched with Conan O'Brien and Marshawn Lynch, it is a hilarious show. So everybody should check it out.
The one I can't wait for is Ken Jeong because that's where he got started with improv. And I mean, Conan, like Marshawn's was great. Don't get me wrong, but there's something different about Conan's just because that's where he got started too. So I can't wait for that one. I know Kumail Nanjiani, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, from Silicon Valley. He's in the next episode. What's her face? What's her name from Schitt's Creek?
Is it Annie Murphy.
I don't remember her name. I don't know her name at all, but she's in it. I forgot who the other episode is, but 6 episodes, half an hour each, and it's all improv. Loving that.
It's a great show. And of course, Steven, you and I love Jackass. And Jackass Forever comes out today. It's getting good reviews. And I don't think, people are going to say, like, oh, do we really need more Jackass movies? And,
Yes. Yes, is
yes,
the
we do.
answer to
Because,
that.
I don't care how old you ever get. Like, to me, people getting hurt will always be funny to me. And it's just fun, juvenile humor. I'm glad that everybody's back. Makes you feel young again in certain ways to see Steve-O and Bam. Well, not Bam, unfortunately. That's another situation that's sad in its own right. But Bam
Yeah.
won't be the movie. It's Johnny Knoxville, Steve-O, Party Boy, Wee Man, Eric Andre's in this one.
Preston Lacey, Machine Gun Kelly's in this. Jasper from Odd Future. It's going to be good, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know how the hell. Like, look, when we see guys get older, when we saw, for example, Dumb and Dumber 2, and it's like you're watching Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, and they've just aged. You're watching that, and you're just like, ew, like that's just not good.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be watching this Jackass just in shock that Steve-O and Johnny Knoxville are still alive, along with Dave England
with gray hair.
With gray hair, Johnny Knoxville with gray hair. What is this?
He's close to 50. And, same as, like, I'm impressed with the Chili Peppers. Like, their music video came out today for the song, and Anthony Kiedis looks ripped at 60. Johnny Knoxville with gray hair, still getting his ass kicked just for fun. It's funny to me. It always will be funny to me. I don't care how old I get. I will always laugh at Jackass stuff.
3D was great.
Jackass 3D was fun. God, it feels so long ago.
It does.
Yeah. I think I'm going to the movies tomorrow night to check that with my buddies, so that'll be a fun time.
I'm going to go on my own. Jesse's not a big fan of the Jackass series. She doesn't like watching people get hurt too much. She kind of squirms a little bit. And we got a movie theater right down the street here that's like $6.50 all day on Tuesday. So I think I'm gonna head down there on Tuesday afternoon and check it out.
We got a podcast on Tuesday, my man.
Oh shit! All right, I'll go one day.
We'll figure it out. So yeah, just on the fly here. When for podcast purposes, when you guys listen and download the podcast, this will be its own episode. And the interview with Greg will be its own episode. But for now, for everybody watching on the live stream, we are going to play the full interview with Greg Papa. And let me just tell everybody the situation with it. My Wi-Fi was shitty while I was doing the interview, so you won't hear me introduce him. But you know who Greg is. He's my dad. He did play-by-play for He does play-by-play for the 49ers, was the play-by-play voice for the Raiders for 21 seasons. We talk about a lot of stuff, and I hope you guys enjoy it, but we'll end this episode and we'll go into my interview with my pops, Greg Papa. His iPad does die during the interview, so at one point I'll have to pop on back here and play the second part of it, which will be awkward. But it'll be fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. Steven, as we always say, my friend, thanks for tuning in, and say what you always say.
Yeah, it's just your opinion, man. But what about you, Greg? What's your opinion, man?
Here we go. I asked him about his trip to Las Vegas this weekend.
What's my favorite sporting event of the calendar year, every year, Derek?
Oh, the Pro Bowl.
Not the Super Bowl, not Championship Sunday, not Wild Card Weekend, Super Wild Card Weekend. I love the Pro Bowl. And I've watched every single Pro Bowl since I can remember. And I've never actually been to a Pro Bowl because I would not fly all the way to Honolulu, Hawaii to watch the Pro Bowl. But when I heard it was in Vegas, I thought, oh. And then I reached out to JT the Brick, who's a friend of mine with the Raiders down in Vegas, and he alerted me, I had no knowledge of this at all, that it's also the NHL All-Star Weekend. And I do love hockey. So I'm going to go down there for All-Star Weekend. Anxious to see Allegiant Stadium, the Big Al. The 49ers are going to play in there next year. So I kind of want to get a little lay of the land. So, and I also need to watch a little football and be around it a little bit. The way the 49ers season ended in the championship game was really hard, right up there with the Super Bowl 54 loss in Miami. and the Tuck U game was a tough one as well with the Raiders. So that's a tough loss. I need some football to watch to get over that loss and move on.
So do you feel weird going to Vegas and seeing the stadium that the team that you were once with for so long?
Well, I haven't done it yet, so I'll let you know. Yeah, I mean, even calling them the LV Raiders is odd. When I did the Raiders games, I never referred to them as the Oakland Raiders. It was always just the Raiders.
Okay, hold on.
Because they were here.
I've heard you say that before, though. And
I
that,
never
come on.
once referred to them as the Oakland Raiders, Derek. I never did. I referred to them
once.
Well, I would not, in the sense that I would say maybe the Oakland Raiders lead. Honestly, I don't think I ever did, or very seldom. But I never referred to them like the ball on the Oakland 32-yard line.
No, I get that. I get that.
Because to me, they weren't. They were, and that's the way Al wanted it when they came back from LA in '95, and I started doing the games in '97. He immediately started to work on getting them back to LA and maintaining territorial rights. So it was kind of an organizational thing, and it's the Raiders. They're the Raiders, and they have been the vagabond franchise. I mean, other franchises have moved a lot. The Chicago Cardinals to the St. Louis Cardinals to the Phoenix Cardinals to the Arizona Cardinals, and so many Cardinals. But with the Raiders, it was the Oakland Raiders, the Los Angeles Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, and now, to me, it doesn't matter where they are. I remember taking you as a kid. I rented an RV one year. Remember when we drove to Las Vegas?
We got up so early in the morning.
Yeah, you had a hard time getting up there, but we went to Mandalay Bay, and I actually thought about, I wouldn't have put the team necessarily right in Las Vegas because I didn't think that would be allowed by a sports team. But I talked about an area equidistant to Oakland, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. And I think I was going to create a town called Los Oakland, where it could be the new home of the Raiders. At that time, who thought they would allow a professional sports team to move into the gambling capital of the world?
Yep.
But now gambling is legal in 30 states, so it doesn't really much matter. And obviously, the Golden Knights went down there and had success right away, and the Raiders are there. So the whole thing is a little bit odd to me, but I'm not with the Raiders anymore. I am anxious to see the stadium. I've been to SoFi obviously several times this year, 3 different times, and just got back from Dallas and that stadium, the AT&T Stadium in Arlington. I don't know how you get better than that, but a lot of friends of mine have been to Allegiant Stadium, and they say it's every bit the caliber. So I'm anxious to see it.
We hang out with old JT the Brick, hanging out, getting beers, doing some speed bricks.
Yeah, JT's a good friend of mine. I like JT.
Yeah.
They had a hard year with the Raiders this year, obviously.
I know.
With all the financial people that resigned before the year, John and Henry Ruggs, and on and on it went.
Yeah,
JT's been with that franchise, going back to when I was with him. So yeah, we're friends.
No, that's good. And we've always enjoyed the Pro Bowl in the past, but you've loved it way more than me. Like I don't know if I'll watch it this weekend. I mean, I'll put it on because it's football, obviously, but I don't know if I'm diehard about the Pro Bowl.
Well, it's another element of football, and it's one of the main reasons I love it is growing up in Buffalo. O.J. Simpson was the Pro Bowl most valuable player one year.
Yeah.
And we'd always watch just to see him in the Bills uniform or whatever he was in, the helmet, and so it was kind of a regional thing. And I think that's it for a lot of fans to see their players play in the game. And the 49ers have a lot of players playing in the game, but there are elements of the game. It's not a real football game. It's not based on blocking and tackling. The one thing that I've liked about it in recent years, and I've watched every single Pro Bowl since either live or I'll watch it back on tape, is when they mic the coaches and you can actually hear the play call.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. And I want to hear what Matt LaFleur, who's coaching the NFC this year, has his play call from the Packers and see if we can steal some of his terminology. So,
but you're not going to be able to hear it if you're at the game.
Believe me, I'll be recording the game. I will watch it live. And I will be recording the game. So I will get me a double Pro Bowl. I do love the Pro Bowl.
Double dose of the Pro Bowl. I love it.
I watched the Senior Bowl. You know me.
Yeah, I know. Are you going to watch the East-West Shrine Bowl?
I will. That's okay. Thursday night, right? On NFL Network? Yeah. There's
so many bowls now. It's just hard to keep track. There was the Collegiate Bowl last weekend up at the Rose Bowl. There's so many bowls now post, the championship game. It's just hard to keep track of all the bowl games. But let's talk about the 49ers, Greg, and you brought it up. Hard loss the NFC Championship game between your 49ers and the LA Rams. Just simply what went wrong?
Well, I think the Rams were the better team that day, and they deserved to win the game. But the reality is, late in the third quarter, after George Kittle scored with 2.5 minutes to play, you had a 17-7 lead, and the best team on any given day doesn't necessarily win. That's not the way it works. But the Rams played a good game. They controlled the game. They had that 18-play, 97-yard drive right away. Cooper Kupp was so hard to deal with, and then they flipped a switch. It reminded me a lot of the Kansas City Super Bowl when the 49ers had a 21-10 lead with 7:13 to play in the Super Bowl. And they were holding that high-powered offense to 10 points midway through the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes was off. He was not playing well. And there was an overturn on a Tyreek Hill catch and put the ball back on a 3rd and 15, and they won an infamous play in 49er history, 2-3 chip, jet, wasp. And they went down the field and attacked a part of the coverage. And once they made that play, they just got rolling. And it's a lot like a Steph Curry 3. You could hold him down, but once he makes one and the place ignites, it's hard to stop him. And with the Rams, it was a timeout that Sean McVay called just seconds to go in the third quarter, which I questioned on the air. Why is he burning a timeout here? Well, he had a special play called. It was a flea flicker tight end screen, which you don't see a lot in the NFL. I saw the Lions run that play the last game of the year against Green Bay. They ran a couple of versions of it, more with a crossbow, jet sweep, flea flicker aspect. This was a straight give to a running back and a toss back to Stafford. And once they started, they were unstoppable. And they got rolling offensively. Cooper Kupp was so hard to deal with on third down. The 49er offense, I thought, lost their poise in the noise. So much was made of the game in January the 9th game, the last game of the regular season, how the 49er fans took over that stadium, and they did. But they had a lot of fans. I think they even had more on Sunday for the NFC Championship game. But there was a point there in the fourth quarter where I don't know what happened, but that place got ear drumming, collapsing, deafeningly loud. And it was, I don't know if the Rams took something out of Seattle's playbook and they pumped in sound, but it got so loud in there, and it was all Rams. All of a sudden, all I see is blue. I don't see any red. And it's just so loud in there. It led to the play where the 49ers committed a delay of game. Alex Mack lost it a little bit. Juszczyk went in motion too late. And you're looking at a first or second and 15 at the time. The last two drives, they lost their poise. There's no doubt. The Rams, it was an avalanche. And then the Rams were able to drive close enough to get a field goal to tie. And then they had Cooper Kupp on a big third down off a blitz and against K'Wan Williams on a 3rd and 4. And he did his thing across the field and got him into field goal range. And then he got into a harried situation on the last drive, and Jimmy was forced to make a play on a 2nd and long, or 3rd and long, 3rd and 13. And it wound up going their way. But I'm not going to say they're the better team. I don't think they're the better team. But I do think they were the better team that day. And they do deserve to win the game. But all that being said, the 49ers were 15 minutes and 7 seconds, because I think it flipped with that flea flicker tight end screen to Kendall Blanton. I think that play ignited it, and once they got rolling, when you get into great offenses like they have there, they're tough to deal with.
I remember listening to you on the radio show 2 years ago after the loss of the Super Bowl, and one of my favorite quotes from you was, "The sun still came out today despite the terrible loss." And that day you were critical of Jimmy Garoppolo in that he couldn't deliver on that long touchdown pass. And you questioned about whether or not the 49ers needed to upgrade a quarterback. In the end, they decided not to do that. They had opportunities to get Tom Brady, didn't want to do that. They stayed with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then, of course, they make the move to get Trey Lance and the draft. And there's a lot of 49er fans this whole season that were complaining that they wanted Trey Lance from the get-go. You have always stayed the course in saying that Jimmy Garoppolo should be the starter for this team. After the loss this past Sunday, what do you think about the 49ers and what they need to do as far as quarterback going forward?
Well, going back to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Jimmy did not play a good game. It wasn't just the Emmanuel Sanders overthrow on the post route. He had a ball tipped early in the game. by Chris Jones. Rashad Breeland intercepted it. He didn't play well. I think his best throws in that game were the route to George Kittle that Daniel Sorensen was in trail position, and George got called for an offensive pass interference on, and the touchdown that he threw to Kyle Juszczyk. Those were two quality throws. There were others in the game, but I don't think Jimmy played his best game in that game. And it wasn't just it's like what happened in LA with the Rams. It's like when the Warriors start to bring threes on you. It becomes hard. Football's not as much of a synergistic sport where in basketball you steal the ball, you go on a fast break and you dunk it and defense turns into offense. But there is momentum in the sport. And once it starts to turn, it's hard. And it turned on the 49ers, the entire team, not just the quarterback, everybody. And they squandered a chance to win that game. They did not play well. That happens. Kansas City special. That offseason, the 49ers did look at upgrading at quarterback. And Tom Brady was available. Phillip Rivers was available. I watched Brady because it became apparent that he wanted to come and join the 49ers. He's from the Bay Area. He wanted to come here. Now, you had to work out the money and how you would handle that. And there was a way. I was looking for a salary cap savings that year to be able to keep DeForest Buckner on the team and Eric Armstead and Emmanuel Sanders. So I was looking at it. If you get rid of Jimmy and bring in Brady, could Brady take less money to have this happen? But then the reality is, going back and watching Brady that entire 2019 season, he was not right. He was not healthy. He didn't look good. He started out okay. As the season went on, something was wrong with him and deteriorated. We had Scott Zolak on the radio show one day when we were getting into it, and I asked him, what's wrong with Tom? And he said he played hurt. The last maybe 6 games of that year, he was hurt. So I would not have brought in Tom Brady at that point. Rivers was a different situation, but Rivers, I don't know if he'd fit into the overall scheme. So I think proceeding with Jimmy was fine. But then Jimmy in the next year, the pandemic hits. You can't have a normal off season. He didn't play well the first game of the year against Arizona, a very winnable game. There were a couple of big throws, one of the 4th down to Kendrick Bourne, that if he's more accurate on, they win the game. But it wasn't all him. It was the overall passing game was off because they just didn't have the rhythm. And then he got hurt in the second game in New York and came back and played against Miami and was terrible. He was basically playing on one leg, got hit early in that game again. So when Jimmy, to me, and this year, he had a calf injury, he had the thumb injury, he had the shoulder injury. So when he's not quite right with his accuracy, to me, it has almost always been injury related. There are times he doesn't see the field and he's late to make a decision on something and he'll make an error. Or he'll hold the ball in the pocket too long. Even the 2019 year when they went to the Super Bowl, he had 10 fumbles that year and lost 5. But overall, I thought the way that the team is built, my lines throughout the entire Garoppolo run here is Jimmy is good enough to win you a Super Bowl. And I believe that. If the last 7 minutes and 13 seconds went well in Miami on February the 2nd in 2020 in Super Bowl 54, you win that game. If it goes right last Sunday in LA, and not all him, a lot of it was defensive errors and just overall, it just kind of snowballed on you. You're going to the Super Bowl, and I think they can beat the Cincinnati Bengals. They already beat them this year in Cincinnati. So you can win with Jimmy the way the team is constituted. But you evaluate every player on your roster, and you ask a bottom line question, can we upgrade at that position? And there are certain positions, you're not going to get a better defensive end than Nick Bosa. There are none. You're not going to get a better left tackle than Trent Williams. You're not going to get a better tight end than George Kittle. So those positions you don't look at. But other positions you can upgrade. Quarterback position needs to play better, either by health or just production, needs to play better. And to me, it all changed when, and you know what I think of him, when Matthew Stafford came to the NFC West and the Rams. I thought that's a deal changer. This is an elite player. It was January the 30th of 2021. The irony is exactly 1 year later on that same date, he beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So it's not like your quarterback plays against that quarterback directly, but your defense does. And this guy's an elite player. And I thought he had a mediocre year for him. It's a first year in a new system. He's going to play better next year unless he gets hurt. He's going to get better. So he's a problem. So you've got to score. So you've got to upgrade at that position. And I think they acknowledged that on March the 26th of 21 when they traded up to get the 3rd overall pick in the draft. They decided to take Trey Lance. And now we'll see what they do. I have concerns that Trey's not going to be ready for this. This is a hard job. He's a smart guy, but he hasn't played a lot of college football, didn't play it at a very high level, has hardly played in the NFL. Jimmy threw 12 interceptions this year, missed 2.5 games. How many will Trey throw next year? I don't even want to guess. So he'll make mistakes. Can he come back and gouge you? Can he throw for 3 and run for 1? And then if he throws 2, we still win. But there's a learning curve there. I would like to keep Jimmy on this roster. I don't think there's a better combination to have mentor and develop Trey, but Jimmy has his own career to continue with, and the finances probably won't allow it. But you could have won. That's why you look back on this run with Jimmy, 2 heartbreaking losses. Both of those games were winnable. They're not all his fault. Everybody just blames everything on the quarterback, and sometimes the right guard misses a block here, and the ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage. It happens. So it's not everybody. But I think they were good enough to win with Jimmy. Jimmy's a good enough quarterback. If he does get traded, I'm going to wish him well. He's been nothing but great to me and my family, and every interaction I've ever had with him. He's one of the finest people I've met, not just in sports, but period. I love Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a great person. That's a big reason why it's hard to let him go, because he means so much to his teammates. But the bottom line is you've got to get better quarterback play. If that's just availability or ability, whatever it is, you're up against Matthew Stafford now. It's a bit of a different deal here in the NFC West with this coach and those receivers, and now this quarterback. You've got to score. Some games you have to go into it and think we got to outscore these guys to beat them.
Why didn't you think that Trey Lance took the opportunity to become the starter this year? I know that never was the plan. They just wanted Jimmy to play, and everybody wanted him to play, but things happened in training camp. He didn't look great. Just as far as the expectations of the organization next season, they always want to win. So, throwing a quarterback in there that hasn't played much in college, what are your expectations? And what do you think the Niners' expectations are?
Well, right now he's not ready. Otherwise, they would have been playing him. So,
yes.
But we're not playing. It's early February. We're going to go to training camp in late July. Season will start in mid-September. That's a long time. He has a lot of work to do. He needs to refine his mechanics. Mechanically, he's inconsistent. A lot of the things that I saw on tape from North Dakota State, I see now. Tremendous ability. There's no doubt he has tremendous ability. He's extremely intelligent, hardworking. There's no reason why he shouldn't succeed, except this is a hard league, and it's not that easy. Even the greatest of the greats don't make it. And there's a myriad of factors. He's got a lot of developing to do, mentally and physically. And can he learn that in an off season when you're not allowed to be in the facility until OTAs, which is after the draft? There's no doubt in my mind he'll work as hard as humanly possible, and they will help him, and they have the acumen to teach him. But he's going to be largely an unproven commodity when it starts. His physical ability could just overwhelm you, and he could take off. Could he be Dan Marino right away? It's possible. Could he be more like Josh Allen his first year, which was highly inaccurate? So they're going to have to do a lot of developing. I mean, in baseball is the term it comes from, and now you're seeing it more in basketball and in football. It's not only drafting, it's drafting and developing. You identify the guy and you draft him. And that's just what he was when you got him. Now it's incumbent on your organization and every factor to develop him into what he can be. And he'll work hard, but it's hard. That's why I think it's so important you have a veteran quarterback on this roster to help develop him and give you an option if he doesn't play well. You've got to have a playable backup. This is a championship caliber team. The roster is championship caliber. They've got a lot of free agents they've got to sort out in the offseason, but assuming they make the right choices and bring back the correct guys, they're going to have enough to win. They've got a good line of scrimmage. They got to improve at corner, but everywhere else in the football team, they're pretty strong. So the quarterback, though, brings it all together and takes you to the next level. The LA Rams were a good team. All of a sudden, you bring in Stafford, and now you're a team you got to deal with, and one of the best teams in football. They may win the Super Bowl. So that's the kind of play you need from that position. Not so much right away. I think if they can tailor it down, and they're going to build this around his legs. It is going to be not a run-first offense, but it's going to be a lot of running. He does help you run, but he's got to be able to execute the throws. The thing that Jimmy Garoppolo, when he was right, was really outstanding at, and until he got hurt on December the 23rd in Nashville, the statistics showed from the moment he arrived to the 49ers in 2017 until Danico Autry threw him down on that Thursday night game against the Titans, he was the best third down quarterback in all of football. He and Mahomes were right there, efficiency-wise. Jimmy got first downs. He kept the chains moving. Trey Lance has got to do that, whether it's with his legs, whether it's with his arms, whatever he does. This is a run-based team, and when you get into 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3, you've got to get a first down.
My favorite thing, though, is when you're on NFL Network and you have that jersey behind you, and everybody thinks it's a Trey Lance jersey, like you're excited for him to be
Jeff
the quarterback.
Garcia.
I don't know about these days.
It's all the Bay Area teams that I've worked for, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mention the 3 that fired me, but yeah, totally fine. Yeah.
Last question about the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan, I think he is one of the best coaches in football, and I think you believe that as well. And for whatever reason, he got a lot of scrutiny this season during the 4-game losing streak. People questioning his play calling, why he didn't switch to Trey Lance, and all paid out in the end. They made it to the NFC Championship game, so I think he knows what he's doing. What did you make of this season of the criticism of Kyle Shanahan?
I guess to some degree it's predictable by people. We had a poll on my radio show with John Lunn on the Friday before the Rams game, and they were 3-5 at the time. They had just gotten trampled at home by Arizona. Probably the worst loss since Kyle's been the head coach, because they had a level of expectation. Lost 31-7, whatever it was. And the poll question was, is Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat? And I mean,
is this Holder's big poll?
Yeah, Holder's big poll. So we took down that poll pretty quickly. And but the reality is, to the fans and the media that are into instant gratification and don't always embrace or understand the process, they want results. They want it now. And the team was underperforming and had a heavy burden by expectations. They didn't play well. But from that point forward, they went 7-2 and they made the playoffs. And then when they got in the playoffs, they won in Dallas, they won in Green Bay. So Kyle Shanahan, to me, and I knew his dad, obviously, and to me, he's one of the finest play designers, play callers in football. I mean, going back to Andy Reid and Sean Payton and John Gruden, there have been so many outstanding ones in football the last 20 or so years. Kyle is right there with all of them. And what he does, a little bit more like Bill Callahan does and did, is incorporate the run game first. So he's just a tremendous offensive mind. He has grown a lot as a game manager. There is no doubt. I thought initially there was a game in Green Bay on a Monday night. I thought he made a mistake trying to pick up a first down. There was a game my first year with the 49ers in 2019 when I thought playing for a tie against Seattle was the proper way to do it, because the 49ers were ahead of them in the standings at the time. And he threw a pass to Dante Pettis on second down, and you can blame Dante for dropping the ball, and he did. But if you're more conservative there, taking a tie is fine. But I've seen him grow after that. I love the way he ended the game in Green Bay. Was just superb. So if you're referring to the 4th and 2 call in the NFC Championship game, I think he made the right call. Now, they lost the game. So ultimately, as he said, I do everything differently. But you have to look at situations. It was a 2nd and 1. Elijah Mitchell popped a run. I actually thought he got more on my call. My vantage point's not great. I thought he got the first down on the run, but he got 9, so it was 2nd and 1. And then on the 2nd and 1, Eric Weddle comes down and stuffs a run play to Elijah. He lost a yard. It's not 3rd and 1 now, it's 3rd and 2. And then they ran a play off a formation that was specifically put in the last few weeks with Trent Williams as a fullback position. This time an offset fullback with a true fullback on the field in Kyle Juszczyk. And they started Trent in pre-snap motion and get him flowing to the right. The whole point was what's called split flow, where you get the defense think you're going to run it one way and you wind up running the other way. So they ran they call it a blast, a fullback force. It's a blast, a belly, a dive to the fullback, the opposition, and you think you're going to hit them quickly off left guard because they're flowing right. Well, the Rams stuffed it. They made a great play. Now it's 4th and 2.5. You lost another half yard. So my thinking at that point was punt the ball. You failed on second down. You failed on third down. You don't earn the right to go forward on 4th down, in my thought. And I thought he evolved. A lot of times play callers are like, screw that. We're going to get it on 4th down. I thought just pin them back there. And I'll go back to a situation you and I and your brother Nicholas talked about incessantly, was the Green Bay Packers lost last year to Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game. Yep. They got down there with a 1st and goal. First down was not good. Second down was not good. Third down was not good. You didn't earn 4th down. I'm kicking the field goal as well if I'm Matt LaFleur. So you have to live in the moment as a play caller. The analytics probably showed go for it. But I had no faith they were going to pick up that 4th and 2.5. So my thought was punt it. So I think he did the right thing. I think this was, honestly, Derek, I think his best job of coaching the team. They had adversity. It could have gone a million different directions. The Trey Lance dynamic and the whole Jimmy dynamic to the outside world is weird. It really wasn't. Jimmy's just not like that. I think they just said, this is my final year here. And a lot of players go into a contract year knowing it's going to be their final year. You're done after this year. You're done. That's just professional sports. It's just, that's the nature of it. Jimmy went into it thinking that was probably going to be the case. We'll see if it is. And he had a lot on his line. Their goals were in lockstep. If Jimmy plays well, we play well, we win. Jimmy gets a new contract. Jimmy gets traded, whatever Jimmy wants. He needs to play well. And he did, by and large. When he was healthy, he played great. To get him from 3-5, to the game in Nashville, they lost because he got hurt in that game, but he still were able to win the game in LA against the Rams, the game against Houston. Trey had to play in that game because Jimmy was hurt. But anyway, I thought Kyle did arguably his best job of coaching this year because he had to navigate some real issues on the team and tried to upgrade a quarterback and then push back the let's play Trey right now group, which are just uninformed. They just don't see it. They don't know what's really going on there. And I just hope he's ready when it's time to play next September, because the way it works now, you can't delay these decisions too much longer. This was done partly to reset the quarterback price in the room there. So it's best for all parties if Trey plays well. But, is he going to play as well as Jimmy Garoppolo played this past year? Maybe he'll give you more splash wow plays, but he's got to eliminate the what was that play and, try to mitigate the mistakes as well.
You just finished up your 3rd season as play-by-play voice of the San Francisco 49ers, and this comes after 22 seasons as the voice of the Raiders. And we know that it's not an easy thing to switch teams in the Bay Area. I'm just curious, you have a signature call now. The fans love you, but how do you feel you've been embraced now in your 3rd season as the voice of the San Francisco 49ers?
I'm sure there's some 49er fans that don't like it. I'm sure there's some Raider fans that don't like it. It's what I do for a living. I did the A's games for 14 years and no longer was doing them, went to work for the Giants. I did the Warriors games 11 years. No longer was doing their games, went to work for the San Antonio Spurs. It's what I do to raise you and your 4 siblings. I mean, it's what I do for a living. I realize the way I broadcast and the fact that I've never left the market. I mean, I was kidding because the 5 jersey behind me, the 49ers gave me that because I'm the first one in all of Bay Area sportscasting to work for and the Sharks are a big team. There's no demeaning what they do. But they joined the fray later. So I'm the only one to work for the Warriors, the 2 baseball teams, and both football teams. That's what makes the distinction is both football teams. So I'm the first one to work for 5, which means I've been fired by 3 of them. I was fired by the A's, I was fired by the Warriors, and I was fired by the Raiders. and I never moved. The goal and desire was never to have you and your siblings pick up and move and have to change schools or any of that. So I didn't want to do that. And I'm in a market that's big enough where we have multiple teams where I can do that. So I'm just going to work. The 49ers embraced me right away. The fans, for the first year in 2018, when I wasn't doing play-by-play, I was working on a pre and a post-game show around Levi's, and the fan base was terrific to me. I think they have grown up, a lot of them, because I've been around the market since '86 when I came out in August of '86 through the Warrior games. They've heard me do so many different sports. Yeah, I'm probably most identified with the 21 years with the Raiders, but I did the A's for 14, the Warriors 11 years. I'm kind of the Bay Area sportscaster. So I think it wasn't as much of a difficult transition for me. It went really easily. It was great on me and my family. Your sisters and brother really got into the 49ers, hoping everybody in the family will one day, but we're working on that. But they really did. And they got into the Raiders. There were times when they got into John Gruden's Raiders, but
Yeah, sure they did.
really got into Jimmy Garoppolo's 49ers.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So anyway, so they embraced me. I never felt like an outsider. It was the easiest of transitions. It was something I thought about and worried about, but I think it's turned out well for everybody. And I hope the 49er fans enjoy what I'm doing.
Now, I know you just said it right there. You enjoy what you're doing. You're happy you have this job. But even today, there's a lot of Raider fans that still identify you as the voice of the team. And people come up to me all the time saying your dad was the guy that painted the picture, when the games were blacked out and I couldn't see the Raider game. Is it special to you that even though you're not the voice of the team anymore, the fan base, the Raider Nation still loves you?
Of course. I mean, of course. I mean, what I do for a living, though, it's just a public endeavor. I mean, there are people that work behind a desk that work just as hard and are, better at their job than I am at mine. It's just what I do is consumed by the public. So I don't think that, if I go out and somebody recognizes me, it doesn't mean that I'm good at what I do. It's a product of what I do. But and I've had many people, because I've been doing it for so long, reach out to me. And, Bill King had that for years. Lon Simmons, Hank Greenwald, John Miller's got it now. It's Dwayne Kuiper and Dave Fleming. And it's just a product of what we all do. But of course, I would not give up my 21 years with the Raiders. That was a tremendous time in my life. I always wanted to do pro football. I did basketball and I did baseball. But I grew up in Buffalo, and I of all the sports, and I love them all. I love the NFL, I love the AFL, and I love the Buffalo Bills, and I respected the hell out of the Raiders, how good they were, and come home after a Bills morning game and watch the Raiders and Chiefs play, and had great admiration for the 49ers and John Brody. I thought he should be in the Hall of Fame. I love that team, so I appreciated all of it. I just wanted to work in the NFL. And the Raiders allowed me to do that and to grow so close to the owner of the Raiders. And he became a second father to me and the whole thing. So I don't know. It's just another chapter of my life. And I know it's jarring for people, but it really is what I do. But I would not trade in my 21 years with the Raiders for anything. Those are precious years and some lifetime friends and people that are dear to me were created there. I mean, your love of football was largely grown because of being around the team and getting a chance to interview young John Gruden about his favorite candy bar and just all the moments. These are, life moments for me, not just a job. But I you move on to the next. And my goal is to do at least 21 years with the 49ers. That'd be special. See if I can last that long. I'm not a young man anymore, but no, Tom Flores and I, the first year that I was no longer the voice of the Raiders, they were playing a Monday night game, and they invited me to a function on a Sunday after the 49er morning game. And Coach Flores and I went over, and it was a typical wild Raider party. And we had some cocktails and hung out with everybody and hugged and kissed and signed and took pictures. And no, I mean, a part of me will always bleed silver and black. I'm not going to give that up. And as the old saying goes that Al always said, once a Raider, always a Raider. And it's the same way with the 49ers. Once a 49er, always a 49er. But I was a Raider for a long, long time. And the Raiders will always be in my heart. That'll never, no one will ever take that away from me.
You mentioned your relationship with Al Davis, and not many play-by-play guys get that close with the owner. How did you become so close with Al, and what was your relationship like?
From watching practice. It took a long time. I think initially he accepted me because of the Syracuse connection. Al went to Syracuse, and I went to Syracuse, obviously, years later. So we had that commonality, and I'm from the East Coast, and he's from Brooklyn, and he likes all sports, not just football. He'd call me after I did a baseball game and talk about the third string catcher of the Angels, or did you see Joe Torre last night with the Yankees, or talk basketball all the time. But I always came back to football. So just watching practice with him and Bruce Allen for years and years. In the beginning, I probably didn't say a word. I just watched with him. And as time went on, he'd ask my opinion on things and taught me how to watch the field. And then, in his later years, when Bruce moved out of the organization and Mike Lombardi was out of the organization, he didn't have a lot of people in the organization he really trusted. John Kingdon, Bruce Kebrick, but Bruce wasn't there every day. John Kingdon was out scouting, but I was at practice, a lot, at least one day a week, some weeks 3 days a week, whatever my schedule allowed. So we just grew very close. We a lot. I think it was mainly because physically he couldn't be at practice a lot, and he knew I was at practice, so he'd call me and ask me, did this guy practice? Did Richard Seymour practice today? No, Al, Richard Seymour never practices. Did Randy Moss do anything today? No, Randy doesn't like to run. So, a lot of that, whatever he wanted to know about, what we were working on, and this play they screwed up Sunday. I told him to work on it. Were they working on this? And then he'd come out, he'd try to make an appearance, but physically he couldn't be there. So, and then we'd have great conversations about everything, politics, world situation. He's a well-read man. He watched the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer every day at 2:00. He'd talk about the Situation Room coming on, and he was just an interesting man. Really became a second father to me. And I remember the interactions when Al and my actual father would meet, and I remember being in a hotel in Buffalo when they were so much alike. Almost contemporaries, and just different people, different walks of life, obviously, but very similar, your grandfather, and just them talking. And I went and got a cup of coffee or something because they were just talking. They didn't need me there. So it was just, he was family. It was hard to get him to, not hard, but you had to earn his respect. And then once you did, you were in. The one thing you didn't ever want to do was piss him off. And we had some monumental battles on some things, but he was like family. He was like a second father to me, someone I respected. Of all the people I've met in sport, I think he's probably the most misunderstood. He's very understood because he could be mean, but also misunderstood, and what a really kind-hearted person he was for everybody. He wanted to claw your eyes out when he was playing football against you, if he thought you wronged him in a courtroom or something like that. He would fight to the death and never give up and never forgive. He took a lot of hate to his grave, which is unfortunate, but that's the way he was. That's just the competitor in him. But he was a great man. I think of him often.
In 2005, you called me, and this is something that you've discussed with Tim Kawakami, but hasn't really gone into detail. You called me to tell me that you were talking to Al about a potential job in the front office with the Oakland Raiders, a potential executive job. And you were running up a proposal about what you would do. You were talking about a pass rusher opposite Derek Burgess, plans you had. And you and Al discussed this for years, and nothing ever materialized. But can you talk about what went on in those talks, and why did it ultimately not happen?
Yeah, I never forget. We were playing a preseason game in Houston. We did scrimmage with the Texans, and we played them in a game, and it was a time we were all milling around the airport, and he was all by himself. And he called me over, and we were talking about the game. And he says, "Would you ever want to come to work for me?" And I go, "What do you mean?" Come to work for me in pro personnel and scouting, and it was fascinating to me. You know that I love football, and I love broadcasting football, but I love every aspect of it. And when the season's over, I'm sad, and you start thinking right away about bringing players back and free agency and all of it. So what he was saying to me was really interesting, and in typical Al fashion, like when he hired John Gruden, he interviewed John 2 years before the third year when he interviewed him and hired him to be the coach of the Raiders. So it takes Al a long time to get to know you and have any kind of a trust for you. So it's hard for me to go back over the entire timeline of exactly what was said. It was something he brought up and then dropped, and then he'd bring it up periodically every once in a while. Then he tried to just call me out of the blue to try to challenge me on something and see what I would say. And it was a kind of a slow, it wasn't like a 4-hour job interview. It was a 4-year job interview, however long it took. But there were times when it got very close. He offered me a job and money, and it wasn't nearly as much money as I would have done it for. It was less money that I was making being a sportscaster. So, and then there was one time I remember specifically going to the Hilton where he was living in his later years and spent a Sunday hours with him. And I think what he was attracted to me, obviously, was my love of the game, my willingness to learn the game, my knowledge of the game, my communication skills and people skills to be a front person for the organization. And how hard I would work at it and all. But the way I would go back at him, because he's like my own father, I guess. And like you, when you and I talk, you challenge me in a way other people don't, because you're my son. It's just different. And with Al, I was just, sometimes I'd call bullshit on him and say, "No, you can't do that," or "That's not right," or you're looking at it like he never really looked at like team building and having veteran guys and mentors. He just kind of, he liked the ability of the player, and it wasn't at that stage of his life. It wasn't as important about the team aspect. And I remember I thought the team was too young at one point, and I thought, you need a veteran, and these rooms here to that doesn't matter, so but we would go back and forth, or I would challenge him. He would when he traded Gruden, we got into a fight. He was mad at me. I didn't think that was a very good idea at all. But that was Al's ego. So I would push back at him. So I think he liked that to some degree. But the bottom line is that one Sunday when I left the Hilton, I thought for sure I was going to work for him. And the next day he called and he said, "You have 5 fucking kids?" I didn't know you had that many kids. He goes, "You're not, you're going to be out coaching Little League. I need you here." And I said, he said, "I'm not going to take care of all your kids." And I said, I'll take care of my own kids, Al.
Yeah.
But ultimately, but I don't think he didn't even say no then. I don't think it was all part of a plan that was coming down the road. And I think he just died. I think he ran out of time to enact that plan. He just didn't do it. He wasn't willing to give up the day-to-day of what he was doing. He did confide with John Madden about this. I remember talking to Coach Madden at Al's funeral. He called me over and he goes, "Al told me all about what he wanted you to do." And I said, he said, "What do you think happened?" I said, "I think he just died."
Yeah.
I think he ran out of time. And John nodded his head and he goes, "I think you're right." Al had a difficult time with death. He never thought he was going to die. I remember one time, whenever anybody died, it really affected him. When Bill King died, I remember him calling me right away and, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And what are we going to do?" I mean, he's gone. He just had a hard time. And then one time we were talking about his own death or something related to death. And he said, "That's the one thing I haven't been able to dominate. I haven't been able to conquer that yet." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, that. I go, what are you going to be, like cryogenically frozen like Ted Williams? And he got all
Austin
mad.
Powers.
He goes, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He got mad. So I just think he didn't see himself as someone that would ever stop being Al Davis. So, but he had it in his mind. So it didn't happen. I part of me is glad that it didn't, because he died shortly after. What would happen? It would have been interesting to me. Had I been able to do that. I've looked at other people. I remember calling Bruce Allen after he was talking to me about it, and I thought, I don't really have the background to be able to do that. And Bruce said, go through all the media guides of all the GMs in the league and tell me the backgrounds that they have. And they're all, a guy like Marty Herney was a sports writer. Where Al got the idea really was from people that work with him in the organization that were, different. Scotty Sterling was a guy that he had who had a photographic memory. Ron Wolf, he brought in guys in the organization that didn't necessarily have a football background that way, and he tapped into different things they could do for them. So, yeah, it was something we talked about. It was something that I had on my mind for I don't even know how long, 3-4 years. Kind of caused an adjustment in my broadcasting career. I kind of backed off of everything else to make myself available for him to do that, and because of finances and timing, and ultimately his premature death, it just never happened.
I remember the press conference when he introduced Hugh Jackson, and a lot of people will remember that for him, keeping the media around and, challenging people on their opinions of John Elway and a lot of other things. But I do remember Al saying to the Bay Area media at the time, I have somebody in mind to take over for me. And you all know him well, and he works in the Bay Area. And he was talking about you, and unfortunately, like you said, he passed away and it never happened. But if it did happen, the media, you're not naive. How do you think it would have been perceived? You, the play-by-play voice, becoming the general manager of the team.
I think he even brought that up. If I do this, they'll think I'm fucking crazy. I hired the radio guy to run the team. He laughed. Yeah. Ultimately, people have been hired from different walks of life. Farhan Zaidi, look at his background. And he's a brilliant man who's looked at the game differently. I think what Al wanted from me was a lot of different abilities, my communication skill and being able to talk to the players and talk to the fans and the media. I really didn't give that a lot of thought. It didn't happen. So I wasn't going to be concerned with how it's being perceived. What I was going to be concerned with was doing the job, and could I actually do the job, and what I had to learn to do the job. It's a extremely encompassing job. Look at John Lynch. And obviously he played and was a Hall of Fame player, but he went from broadcasting to doing it. I think Al may have used the Matt Millen model a little bit. He had, Matt was obviously a great player and a 4-time Super Bowl champion player, but he was also into broadcasting before he went to run the Lions. So there have been people that have done similar things. Scotty Sterling, as I mentioned, to look at his background, or Marty Herney was a GM, was a sports writer before. There are guys from also. It wasn't like I was the first and only to come from an out-of-the-box world. Bruce Allen really wasn't the GM of the Raiders. He was more of a business guy. Al was always the procurer of talent, but Bruce would do contracts, and Bruce was an agent. Look at Bob Myers, the GM of the Golden State Warriors. He was a player agent. So they come from all different walks of life. Arn Tellem, who runs the Detroit Pistons, same thing. Wasserman Group player. So it was, I think at the time it would have been a little bit of a pushback, but after the initial introductory press conference, it's the choices you make and what you do. Now, the reality was, I don't think I would have been in the major decision-making process or a role, because Al Davis owned the team and ran the team, and Al made all the decisions. But he liked people around that could help him make decisions, do research for him and come up with an idea on how to do things. But ultimately, it was going to be Al was going to make the decision.
One decision I know you would have brought up with Al if you had gotten this job was to bring back John Gruden. And you've brought up John and you brought it up Bruce Allen. And it's not an easy conversation to have, but you guys were close. Obviously you guys were very similar in age when he was coaching the team and you were doing play-by-play. And times have changed. He came back and we were all excited. We were waiting for him to be be the new head coach of the Raiders again. And it was exciting. And unfortunately, you lost your job and things changed. And then, the perception of John Gruden now, and he's not the head coach of the Raiders anymore for the emails that he had with Bruce Allen. Just what are your thoughts on how, what you think of John Gruden when you knew him and what the perception of him is today?
Yeah, honestly, I don't like talking about it a whole lot, but in the position that I'm in, I need to, when people ask my opinion. But even members of my own family, my brother is obsessed with the John Gruden story and constantly wants me to talk about it. And I don't want to. It's just, if something ever happened to him, I wouldn't want to talk about that with other people. There are things that are too personal. So, my interaction with John was Al hiring him as the head coach of the Raiders is a young man in his early 30s and had a invigorating presence about him, a captivating way about him, the way he spoke to people. I was never really around anyone who spoke to players like that. George Karl was a little bit like that when he coached in the NBA, and George was a younger guy in the mid 80s. But John was like George Karl 10 years later, little guy who would just get into your face and had a boundless energy and never slept and was so good for the Raider organization. Just his infectious personality, brought in Jerry Rice, brought in Charlie Gardner, brought in Rich Gannon, and they won. And but there was a real ego clash, mainly from Al's standpoint. It was the one thing about Al that was hard to understand. The just win baby mantra that he had wasn't always correct. He wanted you to win his way and in his style. And for whatever reason, he and John clashed. I think John pushed back on him a little bit. And then that 2000 AFC Championship game when Rich Gannon got hurt early in the game and they didn't score in the game. It was 16-3. Al was convinced that the West Coast offense wouldn't work and they couldn't score. He didn't like the West Coast offense. He just didn't. That was Bill Walsh's thing, and Al was the vertical passing game and the ball down the field. He just didn't like it. So, and then when he decided to trade John, I was not on board with that at all. And I had a radio show that, and I criticized it. And Al was pissed. We didn't talk for 9 months, man. I think the whole off season until we went to training camp the next year, he didn't talk to me. And he didn't like what I said, but it was a mistake. He offered a ridiculous sum of money and draft picks to the Glazers, and I don't think he ever thought they'd say yes. I want 2 1s, 2 2s, and $8 million. It's like, what? And then a month later, on President's Day that year, they called and they said, we'll take the deal. And he thought, I can't back out now. That's what I asked for, and it's an obscene amount. So he did it. But the irony then was playing John the next year in the Super Bowl and having it go the way that it went. And I think that Al's health was already starting to deteriorate, but that season and that loss to him in the Super Bowl made him at times maniacal, just totally consumed by it in a at times unhealthy way, and it was difficult. And then he went through coach after coach after coach after coach after coach, and the Gruden, he didn't do as well in Tampa. The Raiders actually, the last game he ever coached with Tampa, we beat him. He got fired after that. Michael Bush, but you were at that game with your brother.
Yep.
And John went to the TV and all that, and then what you're referring to is John. We had a party at Ricky's Sports Lounge and Theater in San Leandro. We love the great Ricky Ricardo. You grew up there, and it was a Mike Tirico birthday party, and John came back and for Monday Night Football crew, and John, pulled me aside that night and said, "You gotta ask the old man if I can come back." And I asked him that. But John, who knows? He had a few beers in him and he was playing. But about a month or so later, a couple of months later, whatever it was, Al called me and said, guess who called me? He wants to come back. And twice, he called me twice. I go, you would pick up the phone for him the first time, huh? And he said, it's John. He wants to come back. And I said, you're never going to take him back. And he goes, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Then he hung up. But I knew he just wanted to make a point that he wants to come back. Why would anybody not want to coach the Raiders? So then when Mark rehired him, there's a lot of things, obviously, Mark's done that I was not on board with. This one, I didn't know how Al would view it. I think part of Al would have rehired John, but it would have been on his terms. It would have been different. But Mark did do that, and then I was so excited. We talked about it for a long time. I knew it was out there for years that was a possibility. I'd see John doing Monday Night Football, and in fact, we saw him that year he came back. We saw him in the booth in Philadelphia on Christmas night, and said, "You got to come back. We need you." And he did wound up coming back. And then the way it turned out, trading Khalil Mack, fighting with him right away, and trading Amari, and I just didn't know if John had enough of a handle on the personnel side. He brought in Mayock to help out, and the stuff with the emails was just so unfortunate. I never saw or heard anything out of John Gruden's mouth that was in any way racist, homophobic, misogynist, nothing. I mean, not one. He was the young computer savvy tech guy that was going to be the forward thinker and bring the Raiders into the next century. And he was that young guy. And now all of a sudden he comes back and he's the old guy, and he's, don't step on my lawn guy. I never saw him that way. I never did. And I think some of those comments in the emails, it's unfortunate that it got out. That really is an invasion of one's individual privacy, but he was foolish enough to make it where it could be publicly consumed. But some of the stuff was open to interpretation of what he exactly meant. The anti-gay slurs are not. I mean, to call a guy a Q word, an F word, that is demoralizing and dehumanizing and deplorable. I don't care who's on your roster or who's not. That's an error, and that's a way of thinking that cannot be tolerated. So I pain for him because I think I know he's got a kind heart. He's a good person, but that's an unfortunate way. It's just an amazing way for this whole thing to end. The pursuit of John Gruden was initially to bring him in back in the 90s after 2 interviews. He was the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, and then finally hire him and have him turn the franchise over, but fight with Al and become Chucky and all that. And I can tell you so many stories about their interactions between John and Al. There's fascinating people. I think they were good for each other, but they never could stand the test of time. And then to bring them back and have it end the way it did, I mean, it's a Shakespearean play. It's an unbelievable story. And I do wish John well. I don't know how he recovers from this, to be honest with you, but I do wish him well. He's a quality football coach. I think a lot of the guys that are flourishing in the NFL today, and they know who they are, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, the list goes on and on, that you would not be in the league and not have the breadth of offensive acumen if it wasn't for the OG, which is John Gruden.
I'll end with this. You and Lund have talked about this all season, Manning Cast. It's a new way to watch a game. And you have high-profile people on the broadcast. And now ESPN's going to expand on that with having Sunday Night Baseball have a simulcast with Alex Rodriguez and Michael Kay called K-Rod. There's a lot of other different alternatives to consume a broadcast now, and you are a play-by-play man. What are your thoughts on the future of traditional play-by-play? Do you think it's going to last, or do you think it's going to end?
It's not for me to say. I'm not an executive that makes those decisions. I'm a worker bee, so I don't know. I've seen a lot. I mean, there was a time NBC way back in the 80s, before I even started doing this professionally. I was still in school. They had what they called a announcerless broadcast, where they didn't have any announcer at all. They made the ambient sound of the stadium loud. You heard the PA announcer, and they used a lot more graphics, and it made it tried to make it seem like you were at the game. The quality of the audio back then, that was on NBC, just wasn't very good. So it didn't sound great. I think the quality of what you have today, that you could use, is the highest end, obviously state of the art, and getting better and better. So I think if you even went to an announcerless broadcast today, with everything you could bring, I mean, just the audio on the quarterbacks, just full sound on everything you hear in an NFL game. Now, the reality is the NFL doesn't want you to hear all of it, because a lot of it is profane, and they call each other mean and nasty words that most people won't get. But that's the way they compete. They're trying to kill each other. It's a viciously violent game. Not very few people on earth could do this. That's why they're treated this way. So I think that side of it is interesting. What they're doing now, and even what we're doing now, is it's a melding of radio and television. And I think when radio ruled broadcasting in the history, because of just the technology, it was the first thing. And everybody, listened to a fight with Don Dunphy on a Saturday night around the radio, and you listen to baseball games more than watch them. And then television came in, where you're worried about radio going away. Video killed the radio star, and that's where that was going. And now now it's the social media and the constant thirst for opinion is bleeding all of it together. But what has happened, and I think a lot of it is just economically driven. Like what we're doing right now could be if the two of us were better at what we're doing, could be a highly rated television show.
No, speak for yourself.
We have a good host. We need a better guest. But I mean, this is the cheapest form of production. Yeah. We're not doing anything. This is not moving television to me. But that's what television has become. It's talking heads on TV. And did it start with interview shows, Larry King? But those are even different. Larry King did a coast to coast radio show, but even his interview show was different. Rush Limbaugh, taking his show from radio to TV. Does it really work? Television to me has got to stimulate you in a more of a way, but it's cheap labor. It doesn't cost a lot to pop up a couple of cameras and put a mic and we talk. So I don't like what television has become, which is radio on television. I think we have radio, and there's different, terrestrial radio versus satellite radio and all that. But television is different to me. We've dumbed down television, and we've made television radio. And is that compelling? I don't personally think so. But that's what is profitable, because it's cheap and people like opinion. So now you're getting the point where the game to me was always different. And I've done sports talk radio probably longer than I ever thought I would do it, but I'm really a play-by-play announcer. And I always treated the two differently. The game broadcast is different than screwing around on a radio show. Well, now what they really want is the melding of it both, where it's not the traditional, it still is, but where the question you're asking is, where's it going to go? I don't know. It's what the public wants. It's what the executives will present. Is a cost factor involved? Is some of it? I would hope not. I don't find it compelling. I did like the Manning cast. I did, because you're talking about, and Eli's a very smart quarterback and did a great thing as a player, great accomplishments. But Peyton really changed the way pro football is played, with the check with me systems, and what he had with Tom Moore in Indianapolis, and more of a concept.
All right. So Greg had his iPad down in the middle of the conversation. But basically, no, you're all good. So yeah, we're talking about just the future of broadcasting. So just, yeah, I mean, Manning cast and how they break it down so well with just Peyton and Eli going back and forth with each other. But do you think that's going to become what audiences want to watch on a week-to-week basis?
I think there's a platform for it. I think the way they presented it this year, where it was an alternative channel, if it's a game you really want to watch and live and die on every play, I would say no. If they would upgrade the production of it, but it was fascinating to me. I remember telling you the first couple I saw, I thought it was the most interesting football broadcast I've ever heard, just because and Eli's an incredibly intelligent quarterback and a 2-time Super Bowl champion, but Peyton really changed the league with the check with me at the line and the way he ran the plays at the line based on not what was called in the huddle, but multiple plays. And he would get to the right play based on how you aligned pre-snap. So I wanted to hear what he had to say and all the knowledge that he imparted. So I thought it was fascinating. But I think what we're getting at more is the combination of the podcast, sports talk radio, opinion-based shows coming into play-by-play. And I would not want to see that happen. But I'm not your typical consumer. I'm just a worker bee, and I'll do what I'm told. But I do think there may be a time when when you're an old individual in this industry where maybe it's not done the way it's been done forever with the traditional play-by-play announcer and the traditional analyst. It could be like, I'll give you an example. There was a talk a few years ago with the Boston Red Sox on their radio rights, and they're talking to Boston Red Sox on WEEI and then Red Sox radio network throughout all of New England. It's one of the most expansive radio networks and listenerships in all of American sport, where they wanted, or at least thought about, combining sports talk radio with the play-by-play, where you would be, talking about JD Martinez and his contract being up or something. And, oh, by the way, he just hit a grand slam. I mean, it's like, what's going on? But it's the way people are consuming sports now. They don't sit and watch every play. They get it on their smartphone or their tablet, whatever, and they get highlights, and that's the way they consume it. So, are people listening to 9 innings of baseball the way they used to? Some are, but it's probably an older demographic, and it's evolving. So I think it's all interesting to evolve, but I think we need to keep radio on one side and television on the other. And I think because of production costs and also what the audience, I guess, wants, the opinion-based constant barrage, whether it's CNN or Fox or Sports Center and all the shows in the morning on ESPN, it's not so much who, what, where, and when. It's what I think of what just happened and my opinion on it and how it all impacts history and all that, rather than just living in the moment. So I'm not sure where it's going to go, but it's up to your generation to figure that out, Derek.
Well, that's why we have this podcast. I don't know if you caught the name of it, but it's called Just Your Opinion, Man.
There you go.
It's off the Big Lebowski line from Jeff Bridges. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's the idea that I have, is just like, everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but that's just what they are at the end of the day, just opinions. It's not necessarily fascinating television or radio. It's just opinions. It's not factual.
But I want those opinions separate from the game.
Exactly. I agree with you.
I think the game is different. We can have pregame shows and postgame shows, but when the game is going on, I want the opinions to stop. And I wanted this. You could have an opinion on the game and the route that was run or the shot that was made or the pitch.
Well, what about like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman now just shitting on a game while it's being played? The game that they are broadcasting.
That's part of it. That's where it's at. Howard Cosell did that. Howard was very opinionated. He's probably the first one that, rather than just give you the the Ray Scott down and distance, Howard was brought in as the third guy in the booth to give his opinions and to move the meter. So I guess Howard was the original guy that did all this. Howard would be great in this generation, I guess.
He would be. He would be. Well, man, thank you so much for, spending time and doing this. And I know you're off to Vegas to go catch the Pro Bowl. And
why don't you come?
I gotta work, man. I gotta do the Senior Bowl on Saturday. But I'll see you next week. You're gonna be here. God, how are you gonna be next week?
On Tuesday night. So I'll see.
How are you gonna be doing Media Row without the Niners in this and having to watch the Rams, do all this shit this next week?
Yeah, I haven't fully thought about that, but we'll figure out a way to do it.
All right, man. We have not scratched the surface. I would love you to come back on and talk about you love movies and what you're gonna do in the off season. Even this new Lakers show, I'm sure you're obsessed about. So there's a ton of stuff we can get into. I also want to ask you next time, Barry Robbins, going down and talking to him in the jail cell in Miami.
Go to Tijuana.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll start going to Vegas and I'll wind up in Tijuana. You never know. Never know where.
All right, man. I love you. Thank you for doing
I
this,
love
man.
you. It's just your opinion, man. That's all
Just your opinion.